What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Monday show, gang. A few minutes late getting started here. Apologies. Just getting some things taken care of, responding to a couple text messages I had to clean up at the end of conversation there. But we're all set, ready to talk about a messy split slate. 8-game slate on both sites, 10 games total, 2 different slates. It's going to be fun. As you can see, this first game up on the left there, there's projections for DraftKings, but I didn't put the pricing in for that slate because the DraftKings slate starts at the regular 7 o'clock hour, runs through the 9 and 10 p.m. games, and includes all 8 of those games. FanDuel chose to take it the other way, start at 6:40 and include the 2 early games, but cut the 9 and the 10 o'clock games, which is unusual in baseball. They usually, since we have lineups and everything, we don't really sweat that too much, but that's the way they went. So here we are. But welcome to the show. Lone Wolf's here. Got some other people trickling in. I know Gundacker's finishing up on his show. Tried to give him as much room as I could while still having enough time to actually get through this slate on this show. So hopefully that works. Let's go. Big game. Good to see you, buddy. Pink hand wave back at you. Welcome to everybody else out there. Hit the like button as we get started. Subscribe to the channel. Helps quite a bit. It's an interesting slate. Definitely some very solid looking spots for run creation. A couple top end pitchers. Never comfortable having Carlos Rodon, number 2 on the board overall, though. Doesn't really fall the way you might want it. But Cole Ragan's a pretty rock solid option off of the top of the board. Rodon, respectable enough. Just a tough Padres team here in the Bronx. The guys highlighted in red, we'll come back to this in a minute, but the guys highlighted in red here are the guys who are not on the main FanDuel slate. They have pricing. Everybody on FanDuel gets pricing because the FanDuel pricing feeds the model. But the DraftKings guys who have no pricing here are the guys in those early games. Obviously, it matters a little bit less. I think I'd rather have a slate that had Bryce Miller available against Oakland, even though he's been a little shaky. Maybe some Sevy against Seattle going back the other way. I don't love Canning there, but we'll get back to all of this. Start game environments. This was updated a little while ago. I'll update it again after the show before I put the full projection updates in. It doesn't look like... Oh, of course, right after I started, we got like 5 of these lineups in. Always works that way. Should have figured. But we'll get the site updated with projections as soon as the show's over, and I'll update the Vegas board before I do that so we catch any line movement or anything. But solid run up top. That one's on the FanDuel slate. It's the Dodgers. It's the Marlins. Ben Kasperi is making a start for the Dodgers. Not exactly sure how long he's going to go. He pitched last on the 27th and went 3 2/3. He's been fairly stretched out for 3. I think 4 is easily in his sights, and then it probably depends on how easily he got through those 4 as to whether he comes out for a 5th / completes the 5th. He's excellent, major upside. We talked about him in a relief role when he was going to be filling a bulk relief one day. So really interesting option against the Marlins there. He's only available on FanDuel. He is dirt cheap on the FanDuel slate. Don't know what the upside for a quality start looks like, but I think we might be viable anyway there. Sandy Alcantara on the other side, pretty rough over his first 6 starts so far. Don't really like it at all against the Dodgers. They're drawing a monster total at 5.67 implied runs. The Guardians and the Nats really like the look of the Guardians on the FanDuel slate. They're going up against Jake Irvin, and then going back the other way, the Nats not too bad for themselves. They're going up against Luis Ortiz. Both teams in the mid-4s, so it's bats on both sides of that one. That's a bump for FanDuel, having that game available. Padres at the Yankees. This one is where we join slates for a minute. Carlos Rodon against Nick Pivetta, 2 very talented pitchers, but both guys can get got, and they are obviously 2 good offenses playing in a hitter's park. Yankees pulling a mid-4s total. Pods seeing a little bit of respect in Vegas for Carlos Rodon at just 3.65 implied runs. We have a big home run total on Fernando Tatis Jr. We have another one on Manny Machado. That's an interesting Pods lineup. Probably going to be a 4 corners game when we get into it. Reds and the Braves, an 8.5 run total there. The Braves pulling a pretty solid 4.63 up toward the top of the board. They're facing Brady Singer. Definitely seeing an uptick overall from Singer, or at least more pitching like the good version of him that we've seen over the last few seasons. He's been very much a roller coaster, but we've gotten mostly good. Gives up a few runs here and there, but the strikeouts have been in place. So I think he's playable against the Braves despite that healthy total. but I definitely want Braves bats going against him going the other way. He's fairly homer prone. Braves obviously have a lot of power in that lineup. And then it's AJ Smith-Shawver on the mound for Atlanta, who's a really interesting young pitcher. A lot of strikeouts available. Definitely going to be considering him going up against that free swinging Reds lineup. Giants at the Cubs with just a 7.5 run total in this game. It's Matthew Boyd against Landon Roop. Roop is interesting as well. He's been scuffling a little bit in terms of earned runs, but the stuff looks really good. He's found some strikeout. He's very good at suppressing power and home runs, at least in theory. The results have been a little up and down. But we're definitely going to talk about him. He's keeping the Cubbies down a little bit in the home run model. He's keeping their Vegas total down at 4.26 implied runs. Granted, it's over 4, but you can see how many teams we have over 4 today. So it doesn't really play that strong on the Cubs side. And then going the other way, Matthew Boyd's just been solid. I continue to not really trust him much at all, but it's difficult to argue with the results over 6. We know there's more history than that. We'll get into it, but Giants are a gettable team, and they're at just a 3.3 implied total. Astros and the Brewers, I like both sides for offense in this one. It's Tobias Myers on the bump going up against Ronel Blanco. Definitely 2 gettable pitchers. I prefer the Astros side of it, even without Jordan Alvarez in the lineup. Definitely an interesting team. I took Christian Walker for the home run pick of the day. He's below a 10 total, but I wanted to take somebody that was available on both slates, and he was one of the higher available guys, not named Aaron Judge, Fernando Tatis. So I went that way. Drawn down against Tobias Myers, I have no issues with making that pick. Blanco can be good, has been fairly good through the season, giving up earned runs in each of his starts, but he's found some strikeouts. He hasn't been bad yet, but he's gettable. So I don't love Blanco, but I think you can play him. It's more about the bats in that one. White Sox and the Royals. White Sox going up against Cole Ragans only for just misguided contrarian darts. Ragans looks fantastic. They're at a 3.30 implied total. The Royals going up against Shane Smith. Definitely some upside there. 4.81 implied total. Second highest on the board. We'll definitely talk Royals bats. Pirates and the Cards rounds things out on the FanDuel slate. 4.52 implied total for the hometown Cards. They're facing Carmen Mlodzinski, who, as we've talked about, numbers that suppress power in the model a little bit for him as well. So a little bit of a downturn in terms of the home run upside for the Cards that's showing through the model, but enough sequencing and upside that we'll consider them at least for some bats. And then Miles Michaelis, the veteran righty with not a lot of strikeout upside, but some innings eating ability against Pittsburgh. Could be enough there. It's a low total at 4.07 implied runs. Last 2 games of the night are on the DraftKings only slate. It's the Mets and the Diamondbacks with Griff Canning and Ryan Nelson going. Both of those pitchers are serviceable enough righties in the right spot. I just don't know that this is the right spot, pushing a 9.5 total to tie for the entire slate lead. And with both these teams, 4.70 and 4.91 implied runs, looking pretty solid on the offensive side. Nelson hasn't been fully stretched out, just went 4 against this Mets team back on the 29th. 2 1/3, had been pitching in bulk relief for a while with this team, hasn't made a start yet this year. So don't really know that he's got much beyond 5 anyway. Canning has been pitching well in terms of earned runs, somewhat deceptively, just 5 innings each of the last 2 outings, but struck out 5 apiece, just 1 earned run combined over the 2, but allowed 11 hits. We'll get into it. And then the Mariners and the Athletics. It's Luis Severino on the mound for the Athletics, and Bryce Miller, a excellent pitcher who's been scuffling with some earned run issues, walking an uncharacteristically high number of hitters so far this season. Hopefully it snaps all into form, but 2 healthy totals here too. 4.33 implied total for the Mariners and 4.26 for the Athletics. Getting into the board. This is going to be the fun part where I'm juggling back and forth between... what's up, Woody? Good to see you, buddy. Where I'm juggling back and forth between the different slates and remembering who's where. So the top 3 pitchers are available on both sites. That's the good news. Cole Ragans, totally believable at the top of the board. Honestly, a little bit cheap at 96 when Carlos Rodon facing the Padres is 98. Nick Pivetta facing the Yankees in Yankee Stadium is 10.5. I can just have Cole Ragans against the White Sox for 9.6. It's a silly price lined up against those other guys. Rodon, I don't have full faith in, but the stuff is pretty good, and he definitely spikes his upside games. It's just a low-end opponent for him in San Diego. That's a good lineup with some ability to avoid the strikeout, with some true power, with some definite offensive upside in Yankee Stadium. So I don't love him being number 2, and I don't love him at those full prices, but definitely would play and will play. Boyd at a little bit of a discount, 89, 83 by comparison to the guys that he projects right next to. Definitely playable. Again, I don't really trust it, but there's swing and miss in that Giants lineup. He can definitely get through them. If he just stays on the form that we've seen so far this season, we're basically there. So not a bad spot for him at those prices, 89, 83. Bryce Miller at 81 is a spectacular option. It's going to be difficult to... Seriously, you don't hear me? Somebody confirm whether or not you can hear me, please. I didn't change anything. How long was I gone for? I didn't actually change anything in that interim. Weird. Don't know what happened there. All right, at least it was just 30 seconds. I thought I was talking to myself here for 10 minutes. All right. So don't know where that would have left us off. So Ragan's spectacular and too cheap on FanDuel at 9,600. The fact that you can get him cheaper than Pivetta against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. Not sure if you guys heard this, but that's a great price by comparison to everybody else. I don't have total faith in Carlos Rodon. Not against that Padres team, not in Yankee Stadium, but he is good. He is deserving of that spot. It's not like an over-the-top projection. It's just an average fair projection for him, but it's a tough spot. Undeniably tough opponent. Matthew Boyd for the discount, I don't think is as good as we've seen him be this year. We've got plenty of evidence that he's not over time, but good enough to get through that Giants team on the right day if he just stays on form for what he's been. So 89, 83, looking good for the money and a very serviceable DraftKings option. I was just getting up to Bryce Miller when I saw that the alert that the sound might have been off. Appreciate you guys, by the way. Woody, Devin, Danger the Safety Dog, Lone Wolf. Thanks for letting me know. Always call those things out as quickly as possible. And hopefully I'll have chat up and actually be able to see them. So Miller against the Athletics. Obviously, it's a high danger spot given the way that they've been hitting overall, but some of those bats have cooled somewhat in the last few weeks. We talked about Tyler Soderstrom through last week, unless he hit one yesterday, which I don't think he did. It's been since April 17th that he's last homered. He's been kind of scuffling along. So you're going to get a lot of up and down performances out of that Oakland lineup. Miller is more than good enough. This would be a spot where we would be ecstatic to have him at these prices if he was pitching like he did last year. Right now, it's been bumpy. Like I said, the walks are really up, and that's the weird part. I'm a little bit concerned just because of that, but odds are he just wrangles it. He's way too talented. As long as he's not hurt, I think we'll eventually be okay. 83, 81, great price for the upside. Pivetta, 10-5, 10,000. It's just difficult to reach to go challenge the Yankees in their home ballpark, but the Yanks are now without Jazz Chisholm Jr. It's a ding to that lineup a little bit. So it's not the extreme upside version of the Yankees, but it's still a very dangerous lineup. Nick Pivetta is quite good. It's a gettable spot, but you can see that he projects a few points below a few other guys, and he's the highest priced guy on both sites. You'll probably get him at lower ownership than some of those other guys, though, for the fact that you're drawing against the Yankees. Smith-Shawver is a really interesting option, 77, 75. There are definitely Ks in that Cincinnati lineup. I like him quite a bit at those prices. Probably my favorite SP2 option on the DraftKings slate. Landon Roop against Chicago. I just don't love throwing pitchers against that Chicago lineup, especially even though he's got the attributes to potentially keep the ball in the yard. That lineup is excellent at sequencing. So I just tend toward the Chicago lineup a little bit more, but I do think the kid's got talent. He's shown some strikeout stuff. Those are not uninteresting prices to find him. I would just probably lean AJ Smith-Shawver at 200 cheaper on both sides. Brady Singer, a very high danger spot, 94-88 going up against the Braves. Even though their performances is kind of up and down, there's just so much power in that lineup, and he's got so much downside for power. At those prices, he doesn't bounce off the rest of this slate well on the top end. He's very playable. There are strikeouts available in that Atlanta lineup, so I don't want to take him off the board by any means. I just don't think he's a great fit at 94, at 88. You can see that right in here. Ronald Blanco, very playable at 73 on both sides. I don't love the upside. I don't really like the pitcher that much. I'm very skeptical as to what the actual talent looks like, but he undeniably makes it work from time to time. Griff Canning on the DraftKings slate at 7,200, playable. This 9,100 on FanDuel comes from the late night slate. So I guess in that sense, yeah, he's there, but that's not a great price for Griff Canning against a very good Diamondbacks lineup that got Ketel Marte back over the weekend. So don't really like him, but you've only got 4 options on that slate. If I am playing that FanDuel slate, by the way, the 2-game late night, that 8,300 on Bryce Miller up there is just absurdly appealing. Pull this back so I can actually click on it. But at 72, Canning, it's at least playable against Arizona. It remains not a good spot, but he's pitched to his top end of his talent so far this season. It's just very dangerous, and I don't know that he's discounted enough from the other options. I would probably rather have Ronald Blanco for 100 more against the Brewers than Griff Canning against the Diamondbacks. Myers is a pretty hard no, but that's a very cheap price at 5,700. We'll at least give him a look. Sevy, if you're playing that FanDuel slate, maybe you mix in some Sevy. He does have on the right day some strikeout stuff, and there are strikeouts available in that Mariners lineup, but they've been better over the last 80 some odd games. We talked about it the other day. So definitely a not safe spot for Severino on DraftKings at 7,900 on the full slate. I don't know that you need it. He's there, but every one of those guys priced in the 7s above him, with maybe the exception of Canning, is probably a better option. Ledzinski is another guy who's just cheap, might eat some innings for that 5,000. It's definitely at least worth talking about. Jake Irvin on FanDuel is a hard no at 81 against a decent enough Cleveland lineup. Ben Kasparius is very interesting at 6,000. If you're playing that DraftKings early slate, by the way, too, that's a 2-gamer, I believe. Same thing applies. Kasparius, I'm sure at whatever price, would be very, very interesting. Good strikeout stuff, has been rolling in a multi-inning relief role out of the bullpen. Very interesting pitcher against Miami for 6,000. He's in my FanDuel placeholder right now. A lot of purchasing power in that. He's a way better option. Even if he only goes 4 innings, I think he's a better option than Ledzinski at 66. I think he's a better option than Tobias Myers at 71. I think he's maybe a better option than a Ronald Blanco at 73, and he definitely brings more purchasing power. Ryan Nelson, tough spot against a very good Mets lineup at 75-67. He can make those prices work in that spot, and you're either in a short slate or you just don't need it. Right? If you're playing the full slate on DK, you don't have to go down to that level and challenge the Mets. You've got so much to work with in that range that just don't bother. If you're playing that FanDuel late slate, I do think you could throw that $7,500 dart a few times. It's just you're probably looking at 5 innings without the shot at the quality start. Matters less on a 2-gamer with 4 options, though. No, and no. Out of the bottom guys, it probably actually is Shane Smith that brings the most upside, has a couple interesting pitches, but it's not a good matchup for him. Michaelis, I don't really like even against Pittsburgh. I just don't think there's much upside outside of maybe 6 okay innings. And Sandy against the Dodgers, he's just looked dead on the mound so far. Speaking of, 22 people here. Hit the like button as we get started. Subscribe to the channel. Check out rotoscouts.com for all your needs for MLB, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Both of those are posted. 2-gamer in the NBA. Let's go Knicks. 1-game NHL slate. It's the Panthers at the Maple Leafs. But those are all up on the site. Those are included under $1 a day. Gets you access to all 3 sports, NFL when it comes back, and so on and so on. All right, let's check for some confirmed lineups. We've got the Marlins here. We do not appear to have the Dodgers yet. This game, again, only available on FanDuel as far as these main slates go, but obviously everything that we talk about can be applied to that short DraftKings slate. You got the projections right there. You can kind of see, where you are. You just don't have the pricing. Actually, You know what? I'm not going to bother because then I'm just going to mix it up and accidentally put it up on the site. The reason I do that is, and I put the FanDuel guys at 0 as well, is just because it'll screw up people's uploads or have to make them click through a bunch of like, this guy's not on the slate. What should I do with this in the upload process? So I try and just 0 guys out when they're not on the slate. So that's why there's no pricing there for that early DraftKings slate. So the Dodgers, 5.67 implied total kind of speaks for itself. I think you want some Dodgers in your life. 3 guys above the magic number for home runs, plus a Max Muncy, the correct Max Muncy at 9.04. A lot of power showing for the Dodgers. They're going up against Sandy Alcantara. He's pitching to an 8.31 ERA in his return to the mound, 4.72 xFIP. I mean, the ERA is atrocious. It's obviously helps that the xFIP is half of what that ugly number is, but it's still way too high. That's nearly a 5-run number. 1.65 whip, way too high. He's not striking anybody out. He's walking way too many. Just hasn't clicked. Stuff Plus still has him well above average. So I feel like we will at some point get re-engaged Sandy. They're going to keep rolling him out there because their goal almost certainly is to prove that he's healthy and trade him. So, you know, it's there, but why choose to chase it? Don't chase the shimmering thing off on the horizon in the desert when the Dodgers are in the way. It doesn't make sense. So we're going no on Sandy. Marlins bats are at least a discussion for cheap options. You do have Kyle Stowers, who's been surging. 6 home runs on the board, a 401 xWOB, a 154 WRC plus, 19.5% barrels with a 50% hard hit rate from the left side. Throwing him up against a young righty who's making his second full start and actually first full start. That was more of a multi-inning opener appearance where this is, again, probably getting 4. We might see him go 5. But I think Stowers is at least an interesting conversation at 33, whatever his price is on DraftKings, 8.33 in the home run model. You do have Jesus Sanchez 2 spots later, who is also a good hitter. I know over 59 plate appearances, there's not much evidence of that outside of that 357 xWOBA, which tells us everything will be fine. Outside of the fact that we've seen multiple seasons of this guy barreling the ball around 12% with a 45+% hard hit rate, drawing a fair amount of walks, striking out right around the level he's striking out at now. Jesus Sanchez is just good, and he's cheap at 2,600 with that number in the home run model. Again, going up against a young righty who is going to yield to the bullpen at some point. The Dodgers do have a high-end pen, but once we get into that conversation, you can start to target some upside. It's just the everything else that goes with those guys. I do think Xavier Edwards has talent in terms of being a back control, put the ball in play, and have speed once you get on base kind of a guy. 3rd highest projected player on the team, but definitely needs help from these other guys. So if you're looking for the correlated scoring option in a 3-man, I think it is Edwards, Stowers, and Sanchez. You've got reasonable options for bolt-on parts, though. This lineup has gotten a little bit longer. Eric Wagaman not really holding up incredibly well if you look at the slash line at 248, 293, 385 with an 86 WRC plus, but the contact is appealing. 48.4% barrels, 7.7% hard hits, 355 xWOBA. Tells us that he's definitely underperforming. Just 15% strikeouts, so you're getting a good amount of quality bat on ball there. So we've got a reasonable cheap 4-man there for FanDuel purposes. That becomes a $2,800 a man option. Obviously, you're not buying anybody too incredible, but it's cheap to go 4-man with that group. You can stretch, grab Norby in a different kind of a stack for 29. He has also underperformed his talent so far. 9.1% barrel rate, just a 39.4% hard hit rate off that, just a 264 xWOBA. It's been funky even under the cover so far, but there is upside there. There's a little bit of power there. Dane Myers, Graham Pauley, Nick Fortes, Javier Sanoa, just kind of mix and match guys down the line. But you do have Myers at 344, 391, 531 with a 361 xWOBA supporting at least some of that upside. Pretty decent contact metrics over the last 2 seasons. At 2,900, again, not a terrible option. Paulie, it's been a little bit more difficult to see so far. Fortes is just a cheap catcher where you don't really need a cheap catcher. If you're playing it on DK, maybe you work him in. 10.5% barrels, 57.9% hard hits in his 25 plate appearances and fewer batted ball events. And then I've just know at the bottom of the lineup, home runs, stolen base has gotten on at an okay clip, a little bit of a hit tool on display over 67 plate appearances. But it's a team full of just mix and match quality guys. Kasparius is the interesting piece on here. Over here, 6,000 is, again, the right price to have this, even without the quality startup side, because there's a few more strikeouts available here for him. 23.6% for this confirmed lineup, 26.5 for the same group of hitters last year. He's pitched to a 27.1% strikeout rate so far. You can see what Stuff Plus thinks of the arsenal. 2.91 ERA with a 3.14 xFIP, close enough. Just a 3.5% walk rate, inducing a 13.5% whiff rate. Really like Kasparius. If you're drawing Dodgers bats, the top three kind of speak for themselves. They're very expensive, but it's worth doing with that monster total. 8 home runs, 9 steals for Ohtani. Creating runs 67% better than average. Mookie just 23% better than average. Freddie at 89% after missing a few a week or so, 10 days. 333, 415, 642, looking like Freddie Freeman from the year before last. 6 home runs on the board for Freddie so far. Teoscar Hernandez for $3,800 is a viable option to swap in for one of those guys to save yourself $200. Will Smith is not completely unreasonable to say, all right, I can't afford Freddie Freeman much as I want him at $4,000 in a FanDuel stack. Give me Will Smith for $31. He's slashing 318, 413, 494. He's hit 3 home runs, 384 xWOBA. Continues to be one of the top hitting catchers in baseball. Monster contact numbers. Excellent option. Max Muncy, speaking of monster contact, looks a whole lot like the Max Muncy that we've known over time. This is up a little bit. This is down a little bit. That's the one blip. He's at 186, 311, 294. I like him to continue to get better. We're going to see the power reemerge. He's got 1 home run on the board. Very playable at 2,800. Cheaping up a Dodger stack. Andy Pajes at 3,000. 6 home runs, 3 steals. A solid 130 WRC plus, a 204 ISO. The 300 xWOBA kind of stands out between those two numbers. Something to watch there. Would indicate that we'd see a little bit of a downturn. Michael Conforto, cheap. Hae-Sung Kim, 2,400. This is just be aware, I know it's a similar name. This is not Ha-Sung Kim, who was on the Padres. He's now on the Devil Rays. The Devil Rays. Woo! What is this, 1998? He's now on the Rays. This is the guy that the Dodgers signed this season. Hae-Sung Kim. He's got a stolen base on the board. This will be his first plate appearance if he starts. Dodgers play 1 through 9 in basically any configuration in this game with this total. Very much goes Dodgers bats, Ben Kasparius, and then some Marlins darts if you want them are there. It's in no way a situation where you have to take Marlins to hedge the Kasparius play, though. Guards and the Nats. We got both these lineups in. Dodgers lineup literally just dropped as I was clicking that. Swing back around and grab it. Actually, it's exactly that lineup that was in there. Ohtani bats, Freeman, Teoscar, Will Smith, Max Muncy, Andy Pajes, Conforto, and Hae-Sung Kim. Gotta give Luis Garcia his junior. Because for some reason that still can't sort out in the back end. All right. Jake Irvin pitching to a 4.01 ERA, a 4.04 xFIP, and we don't really want any part of Jake Irvin. 12.5% barrel rate allowed, 45.3% hard hits, a 90.3 mile an hour exit velo allowed, 4.62% home run rate so far. Doesn't really strike anybody out. Doesn't walk that many. If you're looking for one positive attribute, he's just a very average 4-5 type starter. There's nothing special about Jake Irvin. Sub-average stuff each of the last couple of years. He looks very much like he did last year. There's really no difference between this guy and this guy. But this guy wasn't overly playable for DFS, nor was this guy back here. So I think we're just taking some Guardians bats with a 4.66 implied total. And with Luis Ortiz on the mound, he's at least striking out 25.7% over his 6 starts, his 32 innings, pitching to a 4.78 ERA, but a 3.84 xFIP, which is kind of interesting. 12.4% swinging strike rate is kind of interesting, but I'm going to just shy away from all this power that's showing. 10.2% barrels, 44.3% hard hits, nearly 92 miles an hour of exit velo. Hasn't really killed him yet, but it's gonna. Plus, with the aggressively high walk rate at 11.4, that extremely high whip, just not a great spot. Nationals pulling a 4.44 implied total. I have enough belief in some bats from this Washington team that will go there. So bats on both sides. If we're talking Guardians, it's Stephen Kwan in the leadoff role. Excellent hit tool, possibly the best hit tool in baseball right now. 333, 384, 467, 4 home runs. Still continues to put up exactly the same kind of StatCast contact numbers as he has over time. But this season and last season, we've talked about it a few times already, he's capable of hitting home runs a little bit. Just seems like something he can turn on and off. 4 on the board already this year, 4 stolen bases, a 346 xWOBA, but just a 133 ISO. He's still going to be focused on contact and getting to first base. But he's got that trick in his bag now too, and he's still only striking out 9.5% of the time. 6.8% walk rate means just everything is put in play. And we don't really care that much about how he's striking the ball because it's about, with him, the bat control, the delivery of the ball. A little bit different with a couple of these guys. Him, the Luis Arraezes of the world, soon to be the Chase Midros of the world. Chandler Simpson, we can hope. Dana Schneeman's 2,300, 3-position eligible. Hit if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the grand slams that was hit. I want to say that was yesterday. Might have been the day before. I think there were 3 grand slams hit. This one was a game tire against Toronto. Anyway, 4 home runs on the board, a 378 xWOBA with a 274 ISO over 70 plate appearances. Barreling the ball 20.5% of the time. That's up from 4.8% last year. 47.7, up from 38.1 in the small sample. Obviously, that's very, very small sample dynamics at play. I don't think anybody saw that kind of an uptick in the cards. So we'll see where this goes. But right now, he's been making very good contact in a small sample. Jose Ramirez, we have a gigantic sample to say that he's just a superstar for 3,500. Whatever price he costs on DraftKings, whichever slate you're playing, you are including Jose Ramirez in your stacks. Love him at 10.36. This would have been my home run pick of the day if this game was on both slates. If I'm just making it for the FanDuel slate, Jose Ramirez, bonus home run pick of the day. Kyle Manzardo, 8.69, also right there for power upside. 14.7% barrels, 44% hard hits, 8 homers on the board for him, 276 ISO. The 330 xWOBA suggests that it's at least mostly real, aggressively good walk rate. A lot of positive attributes for Manzardo in the long term. Any given slate upside tonight for power against a weak right-handed pitcher from the left side? Love it. Carlos Santana, mix and match piece, doesn't really strike out much, draws his walks, can put the ball in play, still has a little bit of power against a pitcher like this who's going to allow a ton of contact. Could be a good day for Carlos Santana shares. Bo Naylor's at least been interesting with the 11.7% barrel rate. Same thing with the Gabriel Arias at 11.1. Arias has been the more productive of the two. 175 ISO for him versus 224 ISO for Bo Naylor. Naylor's got 5 home runs, Arias has 4. But Arias has created runs 16% better than average to Naylor's 2% below average. That probably all balances out. Naylor's seen a little bit of misfortune. Arias has just kind of seen the results he's supposed to get. There's definite power upside for both of those hitters. Neither one is perfect. They're both cheap. They fill spots. 3 positions from Arias for 27. I like the upside at a 5.60 in the home run model. Notably higher from down here than Schneeman is up there. Does this catch it? I forget. 5.60. It's the same. Usually that changes in the lineup spot. Oh, wait, no. It's probably pulling the... it's not worth exploring. If I did it on the back end in the lineups tab, I think it would... his number would be higher up there. Nolan Jones, not a great spot in the lineup for a hitter that I do really like still. Just 156, 278, 260, a 58 WRC plus, clinging to an around average xWOBA. The premium contact is what we're looking at here. 10.6% barrels, 57.4% hard hits in a limited sample of batted ball events. Dude went 20-20 in 450 some odd plate appearances just 2 seasons ago, partly in, or all was when he was with the Rockies. So a little benefit from that. But there's too much talent here. There's too much quality bat on ball here. So if I'm going Guardians, I'm very interested in another lefty from down lineup for 2,500 in my outfield to target Jake Irvin with. And then Angel Martinez also hits from both sides of the plate. He's got 3 positions on FanDuel, slashing 324, 329, 412. At worst, a mix and match piece. Kind of a 9-man lineup for Cleveland right now. On the Nats side, CJ Abrams having a nice start to his year. 97 plate appearances deep. We're at 284, 333, 523, a 372 xWOB, a 239 ISO, barreling 11.6% of his batted ball events. Strikeouts and walks look right where they're supposed to be. He's hit 4 homers. He's stolen 6 bases. Very viable option at shortstop for 3,100 against this pitcher. In just a vacuum at shortstop, if you're talking about one-offs on the FanDuel slate, I think he's easily playable. 7.10 has got to be one of the higher-ranked shortstops. You do have O'Neal Cruz with shortstop eligibility on FanDuel. There are other options, obviously, but he is an interesting shortstop for not a big chunk of change on the FanDuel slate. His teammates are cheap around him as well. Alex Call against the lefty. This Luis Ortiz is a righty. Got mixed up. Alex Call, even against a righty, I think we can consider some of that, given the low strikeout rate, the pretty decent walk rates that he's put up over the last 2 seasons. Just get quality balls in play. 344, 449, 426 to boot so far this year. Creating runs 49% better than average, a 365 xWOBA in support. James Wood, we love the power upside. 7.62 in the home run model can honestly be a little bit higher against this pitcher. 16.3% barrels, 52.2% hard hits so far. Just 3,400. Love the upside. He's got 9 home runs on the season. Carrying a 273 ISO, a 385 xWOBA. James Wood breakout year is underway. Nathaniel Lowe, not putting up bad numbers. The average has dipped a little bit over the last week and change, but the power's been up a little bit this year, getting on base like he always has. He's been an interesting piece for this Nationals lineup. He's created runs 18% better than average. He's hit 6 home runs, getting on at a 331 clip. Not a bad choice at 3,000 at first base. You also don't have positional conflict there today. Well, I guess you do if you're talking Keibert Ruiz since it's FanDuel, but whatever. Keibert Ruiz is mostly just bat on ball, and you take the good with the bad. He doesn't particularly square the ball up all that effectively, doesn't really drive the ball all that effectively, but he does not strike out. 11.4 this year, 11.1 last year, 10.3 the year before. Sub 6% walk rates all 3 of those years. So there's just a ton of bat on ball. And when BABIP is going his way, 298, 350, 386 kind of tells you the story. 109 WRC plus, but a very average xWOBA, minimal premium contact. So you feel lucky when you get the home run upside. But a few base hits, some correlated scoring, always in the cards for Keibert Ruiz. Luis Garcia Jr., 2,800. Stats didn't come up because he's annoying with that junior. He's all right. Reasonable hit tool, a little bit of mid-grade, low teens type power. Dylan Cruz at 27. Easy to fit in there for the price. If you squint, you can kind of see it. 14.8% barrels, 40.7% hard hits. Needs to come up some in support, but the barrels are nice. 4 home runs, 9 stolen bases. Nice. 334 xWOBA, perfectly serviceable with a little bit of upside for more. We're striking out 28.8. We're walking just 4.8. We're slashing 197, 248, 325, just a 128 ISO, 40% worse than average for run creation. You'd sell it either way. He's very cheap. The talent is real. It just needs all kind of come together. Jose Tena for cheap, mix and match piece at 2,200, but you're not really considering him that often at third base. And Jacob Young, a little bit of speed in the outfield, 315 on base and 4 stolen bases so far, but has been of poor quality. Guardians bats, Nationals bats, neither pitcher. Welcome in, DraftKings. Hopefully that didn't take too long. Which game are we starting with? Pod Yanks. There is a little bit of rain in the area. There's apparently going to be rain in the New York area through like Thursday. But so far, so good. Nothing coming down right now. If I was going to the game, I'd be going to the game. Roth seemed to like it. He said, I think his read was like maybe a brief delay, but I like their chances of playing. As usual, just defer to the actual weatherman. Dennis calling out to Devil Rays. We'll be reporting the Satanic Baseball stream to YouTube forthright. Dennis coming to you live from the Satanic Panic of the 1980s. You want to play some Dungeons and Dragons after this? They got some of those streams online here on YouTube too. Talk about devil worshippers. Dribbling coffee down my face. Good thing the camera's still off. Probably back on camera tomorrow. I was going to do it today, but I've still got a lingering like bruise on my eyelid that just makes it look like I'm wearing goth makeup, and just not a fan. Pods, Yanks. We're going four corners game in this one. Nicky Pivetta, 1.78 ERA with a 3.24 xFIP so far, striking out 29.3% against the team with a 20+% strikeout rate so far this year. Same group of hitters last year had a 20 thing on my screen. Is it 5 or 3? Right in the perfect spot. 23.9% strikeout rate for the same group of hitters last season. Kid at the bottom of the lineup's not going to contribute much in terms of strikeout downside. Yorbi Vivas. We looked at his numbers the other day. Extreme low strikeout rate, high walk rate through the minors. Not much of a power bat, but an interesting contact hitter. It wouldn't completely shock me if he ends up hitting if he's up here for a while, filling in for Jazz, if he ends up hitting leadoff some days. But the point there is just that he's not going to contribute too many additional strikeouts. But this team is probably more along the lines of a 23-ish% strikeout rate when it's all said and done. Pivetta more than talented enough to find the Ks against the Yanks. Obviously good at suppressing offense. That said, he is a fly ball pitcher who is currently, even with these good numbers, allowing an 11.6% barrel rate to a team that murders that kind of thing, that kind of contact. So he's not safe. And he's by far the most expensive option. The Yankees are pulling a mid-4s implied total against. Even if they don't have a day, even if they just get 4 runs against, 5 runs against, the way that the dynamics of those prices are going to work against all the other upside plays at cheap pricing, not great. So you really, really need Pivetta to come through with the big upside start. You really need him to find some Ks. Again, the good news is he's good enough to do it. But you can see the flaws right here last year. 4.14 ERA, but a 3.50 xFIP. Normally, that's something you can sell, along with a absurdly high stuff plus rating, which has come down notably year over year, by the way. Very similar in terms of the strikeouts and the walks, over 145 and 2/3. Similar, but lower barrels on a similar launch angle, similar hard hits and exit velo. Yielded a 4.71% home run rate. That is alarmingly high. Year before, it's almost exactly in line with where he's at right now, and he was a 3.92. Our threshold for concern is 4. As any grade schooler will tell you, well, I don't know how they teach math anymore, but usually you round up 3.92 to 4 if you're going single digit. That would be a concern. This would be a major concern. This is illusory. The Yankees could change that number in a hurry tonight. So don't roster Nick Pivetta and think you're safe at 10,000, 10.5. What you probably get is a discount in ownership for his talent and for the strikeout upside available against the Yankees here. We've all been on the Yankees when they've gone out even against a bad pitcher and just swung and missed to death and put up zeros across the board, and that pitcher all of a sudden comes away with 9 strikeouts. So we know what it looks like. Going the other way, Carlos Rodon pitching to a 31.7% strikeout rate so far. Fantastic. 3.43 ERA with a 3.24 xFIP. Looks even better. But an 11.6% walk rate is concerning and unsustainable. 3.66% home runs, despite honestly modest numbers in terms of premium contact. 6.5% barrels, 12.5 degree average launch, just around 40% hard hits, 89.5 miles an hour of exit velo. Those are all just borderline threshold, and the barrels number actually is pretty good, but it's resulted in a 3.66% home run rate against. Does have to pitch half his games in Yankee Stadium, so that doesn't help. Very vulnerable pitcher. Guy that we know can get got. Guy that we know sometimes struggles to get through once they put him out there for the 6th. Doesn't finish innings a lot. But the strikeout stuff is very real, 26.5%. Last year, it was just 22-4 and 14 starts the year before that. But a 14% swinging strike rate last year. That's come down somewhat. But the strikeouts have gone up. Probably just losing pitches out of the zone, which explains the high walk rate. Actually, no, that wouldn't explain a lower swinging strike rate, though. I don't know. Whatever he's done, I'm not sold on this. That's concerning. This is going to be relatively high. 95, 98 against the Padres team currently striking out at a 15.7% clip and drawing a 13.6% with this lineup. We'll have to take Luis Campusano out of that over 6 plate appearances, but that still leaves us at 17-7 and 9-1. It's a concerning matchup for Rodon. This Padres lineup aligns very, very well with his negative attributes. So I don't love this spot. Between the two, I'd probably rather have Pivetta, even at price and projection. And I get that that's weird to say. I'd rather have the guy who's lower projected going up against the Yankees. But I am pretty sure it's true. But Rodon is very playable. Don't get me wrong. None of that means he's not playable. You could get 6 good innings out of Rodon where he gives up, maybe we see the 2-run homer by Fernando Tatis, but it doesn't crush him. Finds enough Ks along the way, gets through 6, gives you 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks, handful of hits, gets out of there with a quality start. Maybe they get the win. I think that's your upside day for Rodon. And Pivetta gives you a little bit more of a shot at Nick Pivetta went 7 against the Yanks, struck out 10, had a great game. That kind of thing. Larry, I still got no rain here in Jersey City. Roth seemed to think it was going to play, but I did mention it's threatened. Outside of that, I don't love playing weatherman, but let's see if Roth has updated anything. He's got a yellow-orange still. He's lowered the risk through the day, it looks like. He thinks it'll clear right around game time. You have apparently a 11-mile-an-hour wind blowing in dead from center field. And I'm not really sure what window he's referring to because looking at the just report that they have further down the page there, it's all in red. At 7 o'clock, it's an 84% chance of precipitation, and then it goes up to 96 through midnight. So, yeah, you're gambling a little bit. But as usual, we've talked about that a bunch. One, we defer to the real weathermen and the situation on the ground when it's approaching lock. But 2, you can pick up upside for good spots when people are shying away from a little bit of rain if you get any kind of faith that games play. First game of a series, never the best for rolling those dice because it's easy to just drop games into the next couple of days. That said, interleague, a little bit more challenging because they can't lose a next game and it is supposed to rain the next couple of days. So I think this is a situation where if they can get it in, they will get it in. If we're talking bats, Fernando Tatis, and again, this is 4 corners. We're going with every piece of this game, I think. Even a 3.65 implied total for the Padres, there's too much to work with here, especially on a day where you're getting Tatis at a 13.48 in the home run model. He's hit 8 already on the season, has 8 stolen bases, a 246 ISO, 442 xWOBA. I came so close to making him the home run pick that I typed his name into the thing, and then I thought better of it, went a different direction. 62, 4,000, very expensive, very worthwhile. Luis Ariz, 4,200, 2,800, slashing 306, 336, 444, creating runs 20% better than average. Just a 280 xWOBA, but another guy, don't really care about the premium contact numbers, just looking for him to continue steering base hits. That said, I think he's wildly miscast in the 2 spot. I just don't understand why they do that. Manny Machado, 4,700, 3,300, 295, 360, 459. Solid slash line from Manny. A 411 xWOBA tells us there's even more on the way in the Manny resurgence here. 12% barrels, 57% hard hits. He's only hit 3 home runs. There's more power here. 10.46 in today's home run model. I love the upside for Manny Machado. Xander Bogaerts at just 39.29. It's difficult to see, but there are signs of life from Bogey here and there. 11.4% walks is encouraging. 6 stolen bases is very encouraging from a player who's consistently banged up over time. Getting on base at a 333 clip. Now he's only carrying a 104 ISO, a 300 xWOBA that has been 5% worse than average creating runs. Any given slate upside, DFS upside, hitting cleanup in this lineup for those prices when you can plug him in at second base still, I think that's a very reasonable option. I think there's still upside there. Campusano's the dead min price, hitting 5th in Yankee Stadium today. He's a catcher. That's the reason I point that out. 5.71 in the home run model. Not nothing. Last year, 8 homers in 299 opportunities. Year before, 7 in 174 while slashing 319, 356, 491 in the small sample, creating runs 34% better than average. Campusano's got at least an interesting upside bat. Didn't put a ton of barrels on the ball last year, but can come away with some power. Was very low strikeout, medium walk. So you're talking about a high frequency of contact. And if I can just buy 3 batted ball events for $2,000 at catcher in Yankee Stadium, do it. It's just sitting there staring you in the face. So if you're considering Padres, or if you're just looking, if you're, oh man, I could get Rodon into this, or I could get Cole Ragans into my SP spot if I could only find a cheap catcher. Luis Campusano is at the dead minimum price. That's a one-off catcher if I've ever seen one. Oscar Gonzalez, 27-23, mix and match outfielder. Elias Diaz, another cheap catcher in this lineup, but Campusano in a better spot and cheaper. Tyler Wade, not much of a bat, 302, 412, 372, but a 280 XWOBA, but kind of betrays him already. 0 barrels and 16% hard hits. A little bit of speed there. If you're just filling out a stack here and there with him, fine, but he's not appealing. Brandon Lockridge, kind of similar, 4 stolen bases, but really atrocious numbers otherwise. On the Yankee side, carrying a 4 and change implied total. Trent Grisham back in the leadoff role. He's been good this year. Difficult to deny his 296, 374, 605, the 396, yes. The 397 X WOBA, that's what I was trying to say, off of a 14.3% barrel, a 49.2% hard hit. He's carrying a 309 ISO so far. Most of this is not actually real, but so far this year, it kind of has been real, if that makes sense. Based on what we know over time about this hitter, this probably all goes away. But adjustments, torpedo bats, et cetera, results so far have spoken for themselves for Trent Grisham. Love the option in the 9 spot, or in the 1 spot, because as I've said a few times, the sites have not responded by raising his price, really. FanDuel maybe a little bit up at 3,000. DraftKings just at 4. That's very reasonable for, honestly, anybody, just for the virtue of hitting ahead of Aaron Judge, who is finally correctly in the 2 spot, regardless of what Gary Sheffield Jr. thinks. 6,500, 4,900, just hold your nose and pay it. 24.2% barrels, 56.6% hard hits, 11 home runs, slashing 423, 510, 777, creating runs 161% better than average. He is the best 3 players in baseball right now. Ben Rice, 5,000, 3,500, making Judgian kind of contact. The numbers are going to definitely continue to dip. We've seen him hit a little bit of a slide. 255, 361, 559, little normalization, but still a 406 XWOB under the covers, carrying a 304 ISO, 8 home runs on the board, monster premium contact. And the kid is a discerning hitter. He's going to draw a 10+% walk rate. He'll strike out probably 27, 28% of the time when it's all said and done, but I believe in that double-digit walk rate for Ben Rice. Not uninteresting, lefty, 10.07 in the home run model, going up against a homer-prone pitcher, regardless of what this 1.50 tells you. As we just looked at, Nick Pivetta is a homer-prone pitcher pitching in a homer-friendly park. Goalie for just 41, 32. He's got an 8.95. He can hit you a home run. He's also slashing 349, 397, 481, carrying a 362 XWOBA. The contact numbers are down a little bit, but his strikeouts are way down. He's getting on base at his usual clip. He's been excellent so far for this team. Cody Bellinger's been the exact opposite. He's sitting at the Mendoza line after 127 plate appearances. At least we can cling to some premium contact. The numbers are up there. 6.3% barrels, 32.4% hard hits essentially each of the last 2 years, up to 9-1 and 44-3 as a Yankee so far. That's at least encouraging, but there's not much support coming through in the XWOBA. No support in the actual results on the back of the baseball card or the surface level results. Just needs to get his shit together. We know that Cody Bellinger is better than this. Right now, he's just cheap. Again, against the homer-prone pitcher, hitting as a lefty in Yankee Stadium, that has appeal on its own. If you just take the names and numbers off the jerseys, or take the names off the jerseys. Yankees don't have names on their jerseys. Anthony Volpe at 45.28, mix and match quality shortstop, a little bit of infrequent power, a little bit of infrequent speed, not that good. Austin Wells at 39,300 is interesting for his lefty pop. 6 home runs on the board, a 257 ISO, 12.5% barrels, and 48.8% hard hits. Volpe does have similar premium contact numbers. He's just up there flailing a little bit more most of the time. He's drawing a higher walk rate right now between the two. I just prefer Wells, and I like the option for cheaper at catcher. $3,900 versus the $4,500 shortstop. There are better shortstop options. This is a pretty good catcher option. And then Oswald Peraza, 24-22, is only showing us mix and match quality, if even that. I honestly probably prefer Jorge Vivas in the next spot, just given his hit tool and his ability to draw the walk that Peraza honestly hasn't really demonstrated. Yankees bats, Nick Pivetta, Padres bats, Carlos Rodon, in that order. Both of these are in. Reds and the Braves. So the Reds coming in under a 4-run implied total, facing AJ Smith-Shawver, who's pitched to a 4.26 ERA, but has a 3.60 xFIP underneath that. A very solid 13.3% swinging strike rate with a 31.1% CSW. Kid is a strike thrower. He's got very good stuff. Hasn't really clocked in on stuff plus, 96.45. He's got an electric fastball. Got some interesting pitches to work with and can miss bats. 25.6% strikeout rate so far in the show. This year over 4 starts. Last year, just 1 start, 4 1/3. Year before that, 5 starts, 25 1/3. Just kind of finding his way into the show. At 75-77, there's major upside for him against a Reds team that has some free swingers in it. Right now, we're at a 21.1% strikeout rate for this confirmed version of the lineup. Same group of hitters. Last year, that collection of guys was 20.7, so right about the same. We lop Santiago Espinal off of that. At the bottom, we're at 21.8. If we just focus on the core of power bats in there, we're at 23.2 from last year. And if we add in Matt McLean's, we'll average it 25%, we'll call it. There are a lot of Ks through the important bats in the Reds lineup. Like the upside quite a bit for AJ Smith-Shawver at these prices. Brady Singer at 88.94. A little bit more concerned. Braves, the solid stretch of power bats. They're all under the magic number today. But 8.88, 8.91, and 8.50 aren't too far off the mark. Singer's allowing a 10.5% barrel, 44.2% hard hits, 91.5 miles an hour of exit velocity on a 17.2 degree average launch, which means this, despite being almost 3% so far, should probably be over 4. Should probably be in like the 4.5 range. Stuff plus isn't really on his side. 10.6% swinging strikes is all right. 26.7% strikeout rate is obviously a good result and a nice uptick from where he was last season. We've seen him be a good pitcher in similar vein to this, but not for a full season. Typically, it regresses. We end up right about here. Year before, it was an 18.9% strikeout rate. Maybe a little bit of progression, though. There are Ks available for him in this Braves lineup. So far this year, 21%, 22%, 22% each of the last 2 seasons. So I think Singer is playable at 88, less playable at 94, just fit-wise for the slate as far as having other options available. But I don't think he's overly appealing at those prices. Just fits in as playable. I think I would rather have some Braves bats at a 4.64 implied total against. Vegas is on our side. If we're talking about those Braves bats, that core of power is really where I want to start. I don't think anything of Alex Verdugo in the leadoff role. You can obviously bolt him onto stacks. He's 2,900 on FanDuel. He's 3,500 on DraftKings. He's just another outfielder. So you're only just buying the correlated scoring. But if you want to fill out a stack, he's the leadoff hitter. Slashing 304, 361, 393. You see little spurts of this from time to time from Verdugo, and then he immediately reverts back to this guy. 83 WRC plus, 233, 291, 356. Year before he was better. 264, 324, 421, but still was 2% worse than average creating runs. 158 ISO is pretty mediocre. 13 homers. He's all right. That's all he is. But Riley, true power hitter. 8 home runs on the season so far, 359 xWOBA, 219 ISO. Things are going right again for Austin Riley. 20.7% barrels, 52.2% hard hits. Masher, 8.88 if you're into the whole numerology thing in the home run model. Marcell Ozuna, 891 in the homer model. 4,400 is the right price on DraftKings. That is cheap. I don't understand. 287, 447, 475, a 422 xWOBA, creating runs 62% better than average. Barrel in the ball, hit it, hard hits like crazy. 5 home runs on the board. Just kind of continuing his solid numbers from last year. I know they're down somewhat, but there's very little downturn there. Matty Olson, 144, pretty mediocre plate appearances so far. The 119 WRC Plus is encouraging. The 418 xWOBA is much more encouraging. 17.6% barrels, 58.2% hard hits. We just haven't gotten there with the results in terms of the power output where we need to be. The extra base hits haven't been where we need to be. Just a 171 ISO defies that contact completely. Just 5 home runs completely defy what we know about this hitter. Love the upside as long as he's cheap. Sean Murphy at 43.31 has 7 home runs in 79 plate appearances. Has been crushing baseballs. 349 xWOBA, just getting back into the swing. He's not going to continue that pace of home run hitting all season, obviously, but that's a major source of power at the catcher position for just 4,300. Ozzie Albies, 47.29, very playable piece. 5 home runs, 5 steals, just finding his footing again. 242, 301, 386, was in and out of the lineup with some injuries last year, has been somewhat diminished, undeniably so, but that's why he's cheap. 4,700 is not as cheap as 2,900 on FanDuel. Love that option at second base on the blue side. Mikey Harris for 42.29. Looking the part of a mix and match piece, but we know there's more talent here. We know there are more counting stats here than this. Just has not delivered the results so far this year. There's really not much to cling to explain it away in any of this. But we know from years past there's more talent there. So I do think you go there. If you're building a bunch of Brave stacks, you include him. If you're building one, he doesn't necessarily have to be in it. But he's very talented, and he's going to be one of the lower-owned guys in this lineup from the guys who have a lot of upside. Eli White, Nick Allen, kind of mix and match guys at the bottom of the lineup. On the red side, I would grab some of their bats, but it's coming from the obvious guys kind of up toward the top end. It's your Ellie De La Cruzes and Matt McClains of the world. Maybe some Gavin Lux gets into that just on his quality that we were waiting for a long time, finally creeping in around the edges maybe. But outside of those 3, maybe a little bit of Spencer Steer, a little bit of TJ Friedel off the top. I don't love this opportunity for the Reds, with Vegas keeping them below 4, with Smith-Shawver being pretty good on the mound. I kind of like his upside to punch his way through this part of strikeouts for a while. Yeah, that's 25.7% for McClain, Ellie, Gavin Lux, Spencer Steer, and Tyler Stevenson this year. Stevenson's only 12 plate appearances, but was around those numbers the last 2 seasons. But McClain's very cheap at 44.31. Easy to reach at that DraftKings price. Same deal on FanDuel. 4 home runs, 6 steals. Just kind of ignore the slash line. The 320 xWOBA is not really giving us much of a positive indicator, but at least it's around the average. 12.9% barrels, 45.2% hard hits from a guy that we know has talent. I think you're a buyer at those prices. Ellie is priced like the superstar that he is. 5 home runs, 13 steals, showing pretty good progress. 335 xWOBA, getting on base at a 353 clip. Strikeouts are well down. Walks are up a little bit. Barrels and hard hits are almost an exact match for where they were last year. Lux has produced 300, 389, 418, creating runs 24% better than average, putting good bat on ball, 43% hard hit rate. Still cheap, too. 3,600 in the outfield, 2,700 with still second base eligibility. Not bad. Steer is an okay option for counting stats. Right now, we're mired at 206, 280, 327. Creating runs just at a 66 WRC plus. Hasn't been pretty so far for Spencer Steer, but we know there's upper teens to 20 home run type power there on the right day. You can mix him into some stacks for cheap. I prefer him with the multi-position options on FanDuel to just putting him at first base, kind of a downgrade for the position. But I've already got multiple second basemen, and he's kind of just another outfielder. Second base would be the place to play him if he didn't have multiple better options on his own team. Stevenson, cheap catcher, does have power upside, 14.3% barrels in his tiny sample of 12 plate appearances and like 5 batted ball events. Hit a home run already this year. Last season, came away with 19 in 515 plate appearances, slash 258, 338, 444. Those of us who consider him a part-time reasonable DFS catcher were rewarded for that faith last year. I think you can continue to go there. Fraley, Espinal, Callahan, down lineup. Fraley's got a little bit of pop in the bat, a little bit of speed when he gets on. 3 homers, 3 steals already, but a very flawed, inconsistent player. Santiago Espinal's more of a hit tool guy. Down lineup, 342, 395, 405 so far. Creating runs 22% better than average. Betrayed as far as the quality goes by that ex-WOBA, by his actual contact numbers. Just looking to steer some base hits down there, and you'd prefer to have a guy up here doing that. This goes AJ Smith-Shawver, Braves bats, Brady Singer, and very little interest in the Reds bats at the bottom of that group. Andy's here. Afternoon, buddy. Monty likes Luis Campusano in the middle of that lineup. Yeah, if that one plays, man, that is a good spot. Jaspu likes it as well. Campy won him 300 last year. Love it. Bunch of people showed up. Gunn probably ended his show in the last little bit. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you get a chance. Appreciate all you guys rolling in. If you're rewinding and getting the beginning of the show, don't worry. The audio cuts out, but obviously we come back on. We are a couple games into the combined slate. If you have missed it, FanDuel starts at 6:40, includes the 2 early games, but lops off the 2 late games. DraftKings starts at the normal 7 o'clock hour and includes the 2 late games, but not the 2 games in the 6:40 and 6:45 or whatever those start times are. Giants and the Cubbies. Giants check down to just a 3.33 implied total. Is kind of interesting. They're going up against Matthew Boyd, who is pitched to a 2.70 ERA, but you can see it right on the screen with the 4.42 xFIP. That's a full run and change higher than the implied total for the opposing team tonight. He's only striking out 20.7% of hitters. He's walking 9%. This is a team whose their numbers for strikeouts and walks are almost identical to what he's allowing. That benefits the Giants. He's putting a 1.44 whip up. That's unsustainably high. You're not going to pitch to a sub-3 ERA by doing that. Just 10.1% swinging, 26.7% CSW. There's not a lot of meat on the bone here. Last time out, 2 earned runs, struck out 6, walked 3, allowed 6 hits. Time before that, 3 earned runs, but 6 runs total to the Dodgers on 10 hits, 2 home runs, 4 strikeouts, and a walk. That was the day that we were talking about him, and I said, this is the day it all goes pop. He got through it, but only on some technicalities, and then the next time out, he was just okay, but only went 5 against Pittsburgh in what is a mediocre start. Just hasn't gotten blown up for earned runs yet. It's coming. I think this total is notably low on the San Francisco side. You can see it kind of in the projections, at least at the top end. Everybody's cheap. There is talent here. Several very positive run creators so far this season. We've got power upside. We've got a lot of lack of consistency. We've got some bats that we really like on this show. We've talked about quite a bit. I do think you play Boyd, but it's very low faith. And at 83, 89, yeah, he fits. Yeah, he's like, what, 3rd on the board? He's right there. I can't deny where he's sitting, how he projects, and at those prices, how it looks pretty good. But, I mean, we've got so much to demonstrate that he's not that guy. Right? Like, I mean, last year, 39 2/3 over 8 starts, 2.72 ERA, but a 3.89 xFIP. Very similar to what he's doing so far this year. He was inducing way more swinging strikes. I believe more in the 27.7% strikeout rate from that. If you wanted to tell me some Ks would come back, but he'd give up power, he'd give up more, around the edges, then maybe I'm a believer. Year before, 24% strikeout rate in 15 starts, 71 innings, 5.45 ERA with a 4.37 xFIP, 3.63 home run rate. Fly ball pitcher, gives up a reasonable amount of contact. He's getting by. He is definitely getting by, and you could probably get by with him again today. As I always will attribute to my dad saying, Vegas doesn't build those casinos by being wrong. Not that Vegas is coming in and necessarily saying 3.3 implied runs, but you get it. I just don't feel safe playing Matthew Boyd here. And if I can get contrarian and get some cheap Giants bats in my life around some of those righties like Elliot Ramos in the leadoff spot with all his premium contact, 12.5% barrels, 43.8% hard hits. Realizing I probably have this lineup confirmed. I do. If I can get to Matt Chapman with one of my favorite swings in the league, showing some power against a super gettable lefty, I will. 9.9% barrels, 48.1% hard hits. He's hit 7 home runs. I don't care about the sub-Mendoza batting average. He's getting on at a 345 clip, carrying a 357 xWOBA with a 207 ISO. He's created runs 17% better than average. He's walking 18.2% of the time. He's thrown in 4 stolen bases. There's a monster upside there for 4,500, 2,900 against this pitcher. Wind is blowing in Wrigley, but it's negligible. 50 degrees is a typical Wrigley kind of a night. So no major impact there. Willy Adames, up to 230, 312, 363, 326 xWOBA, supporting the ongoing reemergence of his upside, 10.9% barrels and 46.5% hard hits. We're starting to normalize. Got 4 home runs, 2 stolen bases. 6.77 in the home run model. Very appealing for 3,800, 2,900. Get him while those prices are still low if you're considering the Giants today. And again, this is flying directly in the face of this low total. But I will definitely at least have a couple shares of Giants bats, particularly some of these good righties. Young-Hoo Lee can absolutely be in a stack, slashing 305, 362, 492. I don't care about lefty-lefty here. You tell me you can't hit Matthew Boyd? Come on. 13.5% strikeouts, 7.8% walks. Even if we're just looking for balls in play, it's a good enough price, and it averages right in with these guys. Wilmer Flores has been a play against lefties and bad lefties for years. He's got 7 home runs overall this season. He's shown more overall power against both hands over the last couple of seasons. He's not expensive at all. He's got a 190 ISO for the season with the 7 homers. Just a 101 WRC+. Plus. He's not the picture of consistency. But he's never bad. He's going to give you some competent plate appearances. I like the upside for Wilmer for a cheap price. I don't love that he fits in at first or third. I'd much rather have him at, say, second base. But he's playable. Luis Matos, 27-25, mix and match piece in the outfield. Hasn't really done much at the plate in the show. David Villar against the lefty is very interesting. Major premium contact upside from the right side with that hitter. Basically a platoon option. Last year was only here for 37 plate appearances. Year before, 5 home runs and 140 plate appearances. Year before that, 9 home runs and 181 plate appearances. 224 ISO, creator runs 24% better than average. We're not talking about a star by any means, but we are talking about a righty bat with a little bit of surprise power in it that nobody's going to go to against a gettable lefty. Patty Bailey, Christian Koss at the bottom of the lineup, mix and match pieces both. Cubs side, they're going up against Landon Roop. So I talked about Roop. I talked about the ability to keep the ball down somewhat, check power somewhat, just a 0.92% home run rate in his 50 and a third last year, partly as a reliever, partly in starts, 4.9% barrels, 10.6 degree average launch. Similar kind of numbers this year. Was very good at missing premium contact so far this year. Last year, he was a little bit better at not losing home runs. This year, it's amounted to, I think, 4 total home runs in his starts. Yeah, 4 total home runs allowed across 6 starts. But he's given up earned runs along the way. He's actually struck out more hitters than I was expecting him to. 25.9% strikeout rate, but he's losing hitters to walks. The whip is way too high. Don't love where we're at here. 5.10 ERA, a 3.52 xFIP is nice underneath it. 12.6% swinging strike rate is very good. But when we're looking at some of the negative attributes, and then we look over to this Cubs team that is just full of sequencers, full of guys who can get on base, I don't think it's a good opportunity for Landon Roop. Even at price, 77, 79, he projects just fine, but I think that's all he is fine. There are better options on the board. If we're looking at Cubs, they're at a mediocre total. This is one of the bottom third for today at 4.26, but it's not nothing. Got two guys in the top end of the lineup with 9 home runs apiece. The third guy down here at 9 home runs, that's PCA. Pete Crow Armstrong, how about the surge? 272, 308, 559, a 287 ISO. We're up to 9 home runs and 12 steals. He's been awesome this season. And some of the best center field defense in the league, 13.8% barrel rate. Every single improvement we asked for on opening day from PCA over these 146 plate appearances has basically been there. He's been great. And now with that, I'll grab the actual confirmed lineup. Looks like he's actually moving up to the 6th spot. So let's see. He was at a 1. This isn't the right pitcher to do that against. Oops. So Ian Happ with 286, 373, 388 slash line, a 373 xWOBA, creating runs 20% better than average. The only thing we haven't gotten tons of from Happ this year is the power. Just 2 home runs, a 102 ISO so far, a little bit uncharacteristic. Last year he hit 25 home runs, had a 199 ISO. Year before, 21 with a 183. But always excellent at getting on base, setting the table for Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, Michael Busch. That works. If that's all he's going to be this year, that's perfectly fine, especially when he's only 43-32. Great opportunity for correlated scoring in stacks with individual upside. Kyle Tucker's just a star, 9 home runs, 9 steals, excellent slash line, 438 xWOBA to suggest more is coming. Monster premium contact numbers. Just put Kyle Tucker in your Cub stacks. Seiya Suzuki at 56.38. It's a difficult pairing price-wise, but you can get there. There's enough discount down this way. Suzuki, 9 home runs, 272, 338, 568. Mashing baseball, 17.9% barrels and 47.6% hard hits. Love it. Michael Busch at 51, 3,000. 6 home runs. They all came early. He's holding down a 268, 359, 509. Not a bad slash line. 11% barrels, but those hard hits need to go up. Just 37.8%. Needs to keep drawing his walks. Needs to keep strikeouts down. We'll see where we end up. It was a really encouraging start. I think there's upside there. I also think this price is a little bit high on DraftKings. 3,000 on FanDuel feels a little bit better. Carson Kelly, I would say the same. 54 feels a little bit high, especially on a day where we could just take Campusano for 3,400 less than that. That buys you one of these guys. So Kelly, 15.4% barrels, 55.8% hard hits. Those numbers are up from 6.6 and 38.8 last year. 2.1 and 32% the year before. So far, he's got 7 home runs. He's slashing 368, 513, 807 with a 465 xWOBA. He's been murdering the ball. I do think he's in play. If you're determined to spend a ton of money, you've got a clear path to getting to those salaries. He belongs in your Cub stacks, but I don't think this is entirely real. Last year, it was 313 plate appearances. He only had 2 more home runs than he's got right now. He had a 135 ISO, 238, 313, 374. Year before, it was only 151 plate appearances, but he was not good. Did he suddenly find it, or is this just a really, really good stretch of 76 plate appearances? PCA is very much in play at the 45, the 38 on FanDuel. FanDuel's got him up higher than DraftKings does. Take advantage on your DK stacks. Definitely an appealing option. If you just went like 1, 2, 3 and 3-manned it for 5,000 a piece and got Ian Happ, Kyle Tucker, and PCA, that's not a bad 3-man. Nico, mix and match guy. Nicky Lopez, mix and match guy. Mostly hit tool and a little bit of speed oriented. Dansby gives you more upside. 217, 264, 420. I know it hasn't been pretty, but he's got the 7 home runs on the board. He's got the 203 ISO, 10.4% barrels, 49% hard hits. I like him to, at worst, continue hitting for power all season long. He is still a good way to fill shortstop, and the price is right. Cubs bats. Reluctantly, Matthew Boyd. Giants bats, Landon Roop. Astros and Brewers apparently have not confirmed their lineups yet. Yeah, it's just 425. Zamir, we actually make an okay time through this slate. I feel like we're doing all right. See if we got any weird news or anything like that. Brett Boone named the Rangers hitting coach. Not exactly weird news, but Jordan Alvarez to the IL, Shota Imanaga to the IL, Evan Carter called up by the Rangers. We don't have them on today's slate, right? Yeah. All right, let's get into this one. As we get started, check out rotoscouts.com, guys. If anybody out there hasn't heard of the site yet, that way now you have rotoscouts.com. There it is. You get access to baseball projections for DraftKings and FanDuel. You get access to my custom home run model number for every single player on the board. So you know what I know going into these about power. You can use that for home run prop picks. You can use that for obviously DFS purposes. But it's a pretty functional number, and it has good results over many seasons now. So you get that included. You get the top stack rankings that I put up on the site. You get my individual home run picks of the day, which come and go as far as the results. And I've talked about it a bunch. Typically I'm not taking the most likely guy. I'm taking a guy that either makes sense for a DFS conversation or just a guy that I want to take that day. But otherwise, I just end up taking Judge, Ohtani, Jordan Alvarez from every single day, and that's boring. But my point with that is always a good reference point. I'm always giving you good picks, but that might not be your best way to make your prop picks. With that, you might want the actual tool itself that those picks are based on. You get that included for your subscription at RotoScouts. Anything else that hits the website for baseball, you also get NBA projections the rest of the way through the playoffs for every main slate, every showdown slate that's a focus game. Same thing for NHL. Those are both up on the site right now. All in for under $1 a day. Trying to keep some money in your bankroll. We are here to appeal to the people who are building a handful of lineups. That's 80% of the DFS community by the surveys that I ever did. Most people out there not looking to spend $300-$500 on projections every month for individual sports. People who are just building a few lineups, this is where to look. We're trying to keep the price right, give you as much bang for your buck. People who are building 150 lineups, good news. This stuff works just as well for you as it does for the single lineup hand builders. So check it out, rotoscouts.com. Give our guys over at acemind.io a look. I promise that's the longest plug you'll hear today. Astros, Brewers, Tobias Myers, not a good option, 5,700, 7,100. He does project out kind of okay for the money, honestly. It's not the craziest dice roll I've ever seen. Went 4 innings back on April 24th, 2 innings on the 30th, and then went an inning just 2 days ago. So we're probably not getting much. I might actually lower that just on the innings. I got to look what I have him at innings wise. I might have let it sit at 4.5 when I probably should have lowered it. But I don't think he's an option there. I think he's pushing upside toward the Astros. They're pulling a 4.27 implied total against. He's a moderate average strikeout pitcher. 22-3 over 138 and 25 starts last year, 3.0 ERA, but a 3.97 xFIP. Not really a good swinging strike or CSW mark to talk about. Medium power, medium premium contact type output. You can definitely throw some Astros bets. The thing is, you don't have Jordan Alvarez, which kind of sucks when you're going to this team. One of the best hitters in baseball is missing from their lineup. Well, you do have a very cheap Christian Walker, who's my home run pick of the day. As mentioned, sometimes I like to go to a guy that I want to have a conversation about. Dead at the Mendoza line over 132 plate appearances. 200, 273, 350 is not where we expect Christian Walker to be. 299 XWOBA, but doesn't even support the upside. 12.3% barrels and 45.7% hard hits. When he has made contact, the quality of that contact has still been good. Hasn't seen the results, hasn't hit the ball to the right part of the ballpark to come through in some of the other numbers, but the just pure contact is there. The problem is we've gotten less frequent contact at 29.5% strikeout rate versus the 24-1 from last year. He's drawn fewer walks, which kind of maybe balances some of that. But overall, we've had fewer batted ball events. Still a lot of faith in this hitter for a return to form. Strikeouts were up last year. It's something to watch. But I can't imagine it, but I'd be very surprised if we went up 5 points year over year and then another 5+ points year over year from that for this hitter, a guy who is consistently in the upper teens as a strikeout rate with positive productive walk rates. I know we're aging, but I mean, that would be a shock. So I like the opportunity for Christian Walker here against a very gettable righty. Just a good get right spot for him. 9.03 in the home run model. We got a long memory. He's got 4 on the board. That's not nothing. Everybody in the top of the Astros lineup has 4, in fact. Jeremy Pena, reasonable option at short. 4,131. You're not breaking the bank. He's priced like an average. He's priced exactly like the average option he is. 5.51 in the home run model. Delivering good quality of contact so far this year. 282, 348, 419. He's been productive. Creating runs 21% better than average. We'll see where it goes. The xWOBA supports the upside. For Jose Altuve, that's not true. 259 xWOBA is concerning. He's at 260, 305, 374. He's hit 4 home runs and stolen 3 bases. I do like the upside to return a little bit more, give him a little bit more ongoing, and he's still priced at 51 on DraftKings, so they're at least on board with that idea, or they haven't noticed the scuffling yet. But it's not unconcerning for an aging ball player to be at this level, especially a guy who, despite how he's made it work over his career, is at a physical disadvantage to like being able to sustain that. Once it goes for Altuve, I think it's going to go in an awful hurry. And we might be seeing that kind of creeping around the edges here. But 51-31, he's very viable. If you're going to Astro stacks, I do think he belongs in them. Isaac Paredes in this ballpark, as we always have to check. Luckily, I can just type in Isaac or Isaac, and it just comes right up now. Apologies to Isaac Asimov, who I apparently don't Google enough. This ballpark. Whatever. Milwaukee. Ooh, this is a major negative ballpark for him. His X home runs in this ballpark last year, 15. He hit 19. His number in Houston was 26. So this is a negative ballpark for Isaac Paredes. So you're looking at the version of Isaac Paredes where our conversation is more about the hit tool, more about the ability to draw walks, see a lot of pitches, maybe get on base. But it's more a correlated scoring day for Paredes, who needs that left field corner to hit home runs. 4,000, 3,000, he remains incredibly playable because he's not expensive. Nobody's saying he can't homer here, but it's less likely than in other ballparks. Jainer Diaz, another dramatic underperformer. 221, 250, 365, 73 WRC plus. We've at least gotten up to an 11% barrel rate. Those numbers are gradually starting to creep up from the dregs of where they were. But this kid has a legitimately excellent hit tool, and I don't even mean for a catcher. I just mean in general. So really disappointing start to the season. Lot of mountain to climb, but I like him to get back to fairly good numbers. Excellent option for 33, 27 on FanDuel. You can play him in conjunction with Christian Walker. Victor Caratini, if you need another sneaky, interesting catcher on DraftKings, if this is the lineup that you get, and we don't have it yet. If Caratini's there at 27, dude's always been able to put good bat on ball. 43.1% hard hits last year with a 5+% barrel rate, 44.7 the year before that. Nobody's saying he's Babe Ruth. Nobody's saying he's Aaron Judge. But last season in 274 plate appearances, he delivered 8 home runs, a 269, 336, 408 slash line. Created runs 13% better than average. Similar numbers the year before that, despite the substandard WRC plus. Year before, another 9 home runs back in 2022, despite being sub Mendoza. So if you're just looking for a little bit of cheap pop from the catcher position, don't scratch Victor Caratini off your list. Zach DeZenzo holding down a good 49 plate appearances. Let's see what the next 151 look like before we decide anything. But at least reasonably cheap. 16.1% barrels so far. Not bad. Jake Myers, Brendan Rodgers, we know a little bit. mix and match quality. Myers has been pretty decent, 303, 357, 449. We'll see how it holds up. 7 stolen bases. If he's getting on, he's going to be running. It's productive enough bat to mix in, especially when he's going well. You like to see the start. I don't think it continues at this level, but a competent like 270, 330 kind of season with 25 plus stolen bases, I think is reasonable. And then Rogers, I mean, if we continue getting contact like that, that's the thing to focus on here. Has delivered 0 home runs, that one, and a .047 ISO over 73 plate appearances, despite a 12.2% barrel rate and a 48.8% hard hit rate. Those results fly directly in the face of this contact. 329 xWOBA is a little bit above average. You would expect better than the results he's seen. So you could easily say Rogers has been a little bit unlucky. At 26, you could buy the contact. It's not a bad price for the upside. Again, going up against a vulnerable righty. On the Brewers side, still no Brewers lineup. At least not up on Labs. Nope. Not on underdog yet either. So the Brewers are going up against Ronald Blanco. 21.7% strikeouts, but you can see the immediate flaw at 11.7% walks. That's just unsustainable. He's pitched to a 5.08 ERA and a 4.73 xFIP, which are the real version of Ronald Blanco. 4+% home run rate. Last year in 29 starts, he finished the year at 2.80 ERA, but a 4.09 xFIP. 10+% walks, but somehow a 1.09 whip. That immediately tells you this is a pitcher who was getting lucky last year via BABIP. 12.9% swinging strikes is undeniably good. 24.6% strikeout rate, totally believable. I never said he couldn't be a 1-4 strikeout pitcher, but the walks, the problems with runners on base, the problems with power and premium contact that were visible last year didn't completely kill him last year, but this is not a nothing home run rate. And this year that contact has gone up and it's burnt him. This is who the Ronald Blanco is, not the other guy. You can see the swinging strikes in the CSW were excellent. They've actually gone up. I wouldn't be stunned to see him tear through this Brewers lineup on the right day, find some Ks along the way, and have a very good start. At 73, you can absolutely play him. But I greatly prefer taking Brewers bats against. Not a big fan of the pitcher, not a big believer in any of the positive attributes. I'm much more of a believer in the negative attributes with this pitcher. Jackson Chourio for 54.36. Reasonable. There are flaws here. There is a little bit of sophomore slump going on. 6 homers is definitely the positive. 215 ISO. We're right at league average for run creation for a player who should be soaring above the average. More interestingly, just a 292 xWOBA. 268 on base. The 1.3% walk rate is atrocious. The strikeouts being at just 21%, right where we would expect, given last year. But he's lost 5.5% of walk rate there. There goes a lot of on base, a lot of run creation upside. But the individual attributes, the power, very, very real. So easy to put into Brewer stacks, 9.67 to lead the team in the home run model. Rhys Hoskins, number 2 in terms of the home run model upside, 9.38. And again, this is a vulnerable pitcher to the home run. So I'm interested in Rhys Hoskins a few spots later. In between, Bryce Turang, reasonable option for a little bit of power that he's flashed this year via premium contact. He's hit 3 home runs. More importantly, 315, 372, 400. He's been very good. 353 xWOBA, supporting the upside that it'll continue. Could bring strikeouts down somewhat based on last year's sample. We know he's going to run, but so far been good for correlated scoring, been good for run creation, run driving in runs. Couple of homers. Love the upside. William Contreras at 44.31. Still scuffling a little bit. 3 home runs on the board, just 316 xWOBA. Another guy right at the league average for run creation, but doesn't really strike out. Draws plenty of walks. Tons of premium contact upside from years past. I think we continue to go there, especially against a pitcher like this. You guys know I like Christian Yelich. You know I don't care about the 207, 312, 355 start to the season. He's got 5 home runs on the board. He's stolen 6 bags. 326 xwOBA's right around the average. We're okay. 48.2% hard hits, perfectly serviceable for where we expect him. Strikeouts up significantly in the small sample, 18.4 to 26.2. There's part of your problem. Walks are right where they're supposed to be in the 12s. Just lost a few barrels, missed a few that he probably took a big healthy cut at and resulted in a strikeout, not a barrel. You correct that minor flaw, and you've got a very cheap Christian Yelich at 44. FanDuel correctly still at 35. Hoskins barreling the ball like crazy. A lot of hard hits, 12.2 and 45.9. He's hit 4 home runs, carrying a 258, 381, 402 slash line, 362 xwOBA, creating runs 21% better than average. Cut strikeouts down notably, push walks up a little bit in the small sample so far this year. Rhys Hoskins remains a 3 true outcomes hitter, but he is not a bad option for 27-37 at first base. 9.38 in the home run model against a homer-prone, mediocre righty. Not a bad option. Jake Bauers from the left side, not a bad option for some sneaky power either. 7.17 in the home run model. He's hit 2 this year. He's got a 200 ISO. Reasonable power showing, despite the lack of home run results in his 47 plate appearances, or the 2. 18.2% barrels, 45.5% hard hits in the limited number of batted ball events so far. Last year, that was 10-3 and 41-8. Year before, in a small sample, 18-7 and 48. How many plate appearances was that? Probably like 30. Last year, it was 346. He hit 12 home runs. He stole 13 bases, but slash 199, 301, 361. Year before, that was 272 plate appearances. Surprising. 211 ISO, slash just 202, 279, 413. You can see right here, he's not going to be a good average hitter, but hit 12 home runs in those 272 plate appearances. So that means that this was sustained over, almost a half a season. Not nothing for 3,900, 2,500 at first base or in the outfield. Isaac Collins, 23-24, mix and match piece. Joey Ortiz has been less than that so far this year. Was essentially just a mix and match infielder last year. Caleb Durbin, giving you a little tiny bit more than those two, or than Joey Ortiz has, but really not a priority down lineup. This is mostly about these top 6, and then just mix match your way through those guys. Astros bats, Brewers bats, neither pitcher, but if you had to take a pitcher, it would be Ronel Blanco. You know what? Let me do this real quick. I think this is too high. I don't think I properly accounted for the innings there. Just to call that out. I'm going to go in. That's why I'm flagging him here. I'm going to change that innings allocation for Tobias Myers. It's probably above where it should be. White Sox and the Royals. Got both of these. Chase Meadroth in the leadoff spot for the White Sox. Helps to lengthen that lineup a little bit. But they're still really bad, and they're still going up against probably the best pitcher of the day in Cole Ragans. What you can get out of having Meadroth up there is an absurdly patient hitter who is going to push very low strikeout and very high walk rates at the major league level. So far in his 49 plate appearances, we're already at just 12.2% Ks, 18.4% walks. He's gotten on at a 408 clip. He's created runs 18% better than average despite being in this White Sox lineup. He's a really interesting option, and he's a guy who is a pitcher frustrator, plate appearance extender, but he's mostly a hit tool guy. There's really no power there. It's all about that eye, that ability to not strike out, frustrate, put balls in play, and reach first base. Once he's at first, maybe he'll steal. You got 2 stolen bases so far, but otherwise, he needs help from the rest of this lineup. Even their superstar, Luis Robert Jr., has not had a good season so far. The 340 xwOBA is encouraging that we're going to come around. Same with the premium contact numbers. He's hit 5 home runs. At least for fantasy purposes, he's already swiped 15 bases, which is great because that's keeping him alive right now as far as fantasy rankings go. But he's 7 points below average for run creation this year. He costs a full $3,500 on FanDuel. Not much discount there. $4,500, you're getting a little bit cheap for Lou Bob on DraftKings. Edgar Quero in the 3 spot, 340, 446, 404. Another cheap catcher option. Hasn't barreled the ball yet. I don't know how believable the upside really is, but at least he's maintained quality over 56 plate appearances. Hasn't really struck out much, but going up against Cole Ragans, That might change in a hurry. Raggins is currently pitching to a 35.9% strikeout rate with a 16% swinging strike rate. So that's going to change some numbers here. Miguel Vargas is at best, mix and match guy, miscast entirely in the 2 spot. 220, 313, 322, 14% below average for run creation, a 102 ISO. It's a hilariously bad choice to have hitting second. If you're not going to put Lubob there, at least put Andrew Vaughn there. Vaughn, 176, 218, 280. Not much support for putting him in that spot either, but at least you're getting good premium contact to actually drive runs. That's all he's given us so far. He's hit 3 home runs, 14.6% barrels, 51% hard hits. You're just clinging to that contact on faith. But this entire lineup, I'll take Meadroth out. I'll leave the Edgar Cato plate appearances in. 222 with Cato in there. If you take him out as well, this entire 7-man group is at 205. On base wise, 298, sub 300 on base for 7 out of these 9 hitters. Slug is 320 for that group. ISO 115. Keep in mind this includes Lubob. xWOBA for the whole team is at 325, which is about the average. If we're just going, where were we? And those guys. We go with that same group from before, 312. It's a bad team going up against Cole Raggins. We do have Michael A. hiding down lineup. If you're determined to stack White Sox, I do like grabbing some Michael A. 10.6% barrels, 42.6% hard hits, hiding in his typical 8-9 spot with a little bit of lurking power, but over 70 plate appearances despite the good contact. Just 1 home run, 197, 243, 348. He is never going to be somebody that you can trust to come through all the time, but you can trust that at a cheap price and no ownership whatsoever. When he does come through, it'll be in a pretty big way. But this is all about Raggins. 10-3, 96. Happy to pay those prices. He's excellent. 4.40 ERA, you just totally ignore. The 2.58 xFIP is the real number. The strikeouts are absurd. The swinging strike stuff is absurd. A couple of home runs lost along the way on a high launch angle. Even if he has a bumpy game here and gives up a couple of runs, still has the top ceiling on the slate by a mile. Royals bats against Shane Smith, who's pitched to a 2.23 ERA but has a 4.50 xFIP underneath it, is sporting an 11.3% swinging strike rate, is polished off like 1 in 5 at the major league level at a 19.5% strikeout rate. Not really bad in terms of the premium contact numbers either. It's a moderate launch rate, but launch angle, but 5.6% barrels, 44.8% hard hits, 89.2 miles an hour of exit velo, and a sub 1% home run rate so far. There are positive attributes for Shane Smith. He's got a couple of interesting pitches. He's not bad, but he's also not good. And this is a very talented Royals team that limits strikeouts like crazy, that puts balls in play against weak pitchers like this, that can exploit a too high walk rate even with their moderate walk rate success. I just don't like the spot for Shane Smith, even at 7,000, 7,600. You've got other options in that price range. The Royals are drawing a 4.81 in Vegas if we needed one more nail in the coffin. Smith last time out, 5 innings, 3 runs, but just 1 of them earned, struck out 4, walked 3. Game before that against the Twins was a pretty good one. 5 innings, faced 19 hitters, 4 hits allowed. Excuse me. Struck out 7, walked 1. Couple of 6-inning starts earlier in the year. Faced Cleveland and Boston, went 6 against both. Came away with, didn't get a win in either game because he's on the White Sox, but did get quality starts in both those. Low end option on this slate. Jonathan India finally hit his first home run of the season the other day. It took him 139 plate appearances, but we're on the board for power. We typically expect India to be in the 12 to 15 homer range with a similar number of stolen bases. We might fall short of that considering he was at double zeros going into the weekend, but we should see some ongoing counting stat upside from India. And what you want from him is the correlated scoring. 331 on base, right where he needs to be. He's only in an 83 WRC plus because everything else has been kind of atrocious so far. I think with everything else rounding into his usual form, and the 337 xWOBA tells us it will, we're going to be perfectly fine, and we're just getting him cheap with multi-position eligibility on both sites. 29-26 against this pitcher, definitely interested in Jonathan India. Bobby Witt, superstar at shortstop. 306, 379, 493 rivals any shortstop option on the board. 4 homers, 9 steals. You just play Bobby Witt when you're going to this team. You can play Bobby Witt in 2-mans, as a one-off at the position, however you want to use him, include him in lineups. Vinny Pasquantino is 3,100 on DraftKings. I know he has been bumpy so far this season. He remains one of our favorite hitters in the game on this show. We've talked about it at length so far through the year. The strikeouts are already on their way back down. We're at 18-2. He hit a couple home runs over the weekend. He's at 6 homers now. Technically, we're actually getting that power uptick that we were looking for. Barrels are up at 9.3%. Hard hits are down slightly, but he's ahead of his home run pace from previous seasons. We just need that timing to fully click back in. And if you can find that old timing with that increased bat speed, now we're on to something. So hold on to your hats. It might be the big upswing month for Vinny Pasquantino. We might be looking at a completely different hitter by the end of May. And I want to be early, not late. Again, you've already seen a couple good results in recent days. 29, 31, still very, very cheap at first base. Sal Perez back in the lineup. He missed a couple days over the weekend, took a bump. I forget what it was, but it's good to see him. 15.2% barrels, 46.5% hard hits. Totally defies the just 2 home runs, the 138 ISO, 244, 285, 382. He's carrying a 412 xWOBA right now. Sal is perfectly fine. Everything's going to come roaring back in a big way for Sal. Michael Garcia had a good weekend. Don't look now. It's another guy we talked about on like opening day for liking the upside if he can do a couple things. And right now, we've gone from 3.7% barrels to 5.9. We've gone from 42.6% hard hits to 52.5. We've cut 2 points off of strikeout while adding a couple points to walk rate. We're at 319, 379, 496. A couple home runs over the weekend got us up to 4. 7 stolen bases, creating runs 46% better than average to lead the team. A 380 xWOBA to tell us that it's actually real. Love the upside for Michael Garcia. 31 on FanDuel at second base, not expensive enough yet. 38 on DraftKings at third base, perfectly viable at that position. Michael Massey for 23-25, reasonable enough stick to put it from the left side of the plate from time to time if you're building a lot of Royals lineups. Not in my first Royals stack, but he's probably in the second one. There's a little bit of pop from the left side there. It's difficult to see right now, but it's there. Drew Waters, mix and match guy at 28-25. He's performed better so far this season than Michael Massey has. Switch hitter, reasonable to pop into the outfield in a rotation, just another outfielder type. Freddie Finnerman, another very, very cheap catcher, 2,300. Another interesting option, especially going up against this pitcher. 2,200 on FanDuel where it's less interesting. 61 plate appearances this year. Freddie's at 268, 317, 339. The xWOBA and the WRC Plus don't support any kind of upside, neither do the premium contact numbers. But we've seen Freddie before. Last year, over 368, he slashed 271, 319, 366. Only hit 6 home runs, had a nothing ISO, and was 9 points below average for run creation. But if we're just looking for cheap balls in play from a position that we're required to include on DraftKings, you can absolutely grab some shares. 281, 321, 461 2 years ago, over 235 backup catcher plate appearances with 9 home runs. Creator runs 8% better than average that year, had a 180 ISO. Any given slate upside galore for Freddie Finnerman. You can put Sal at first, but you do have the conflict if you're going all 3 with Sal, Vinny, and Freddie. The one thing to bear in mind. But if you need to cheapen up, you can do it in a hurry with Freddie Finnerman, and you don't have the same upside for power or extra base hits that you do with Sal. You got upside for contact. You've got upside for balls in play, which sometimes is all that really matters. And then Kyle Isbell's at the bottom of the lineup, and we're happy for him. Very much Cole Ragans, followed immediately by the Royals lineup, which looks very good. And nothing's on the board outside of, if you want a couple darts of Shane Smith, you could throw them, but I don't think it's a good spot at all. And that really also applies to the White Sox lineup. If you're doing it, it would be 1 as a priority, 2 as a priority, or excuse me, 1, 4 are your 2 priorities in this lineup. And then Andrew Vaughn's still probably your 3rd most important guy. And for me, it's like Michael A. and maybe Edgar Quero, but it's really difficult to see. Only 3 games to go, making our way through. Tango Hotel says, anybody have an opinion on the San Diego NY game plan? Mr. Roth from over at RG thinks it's going to play as of the last check. Thinks he sees a window. I don't love going weatherman style. To what I'll say is the same thing I always do. If you're risk averse, if you don't like taking risks, take it out. It's one game, not completely unlikely to burn you because there are major upside bats. I tend to go the other way with that. I tend to see it as opportunity, where if people are going to go away from it because of the weather risk, that makes it more appealing if I think there's a lane through which it can play, and I only need a little bit there. Right now, looking out my window in Jersey City, New Jersey, which is as the crow flies, 7-8 miles from Yankee Stadium, maybe 10. I don't see any rain yet. It's going to rain, no doubt about it. But right now, it's not. It's a warm day. If I was going to the stadium, I'd probably go. Monty makes a good point. Caratini will remain in the upper portion of the lineup for the next 10 to 15 games since they put Jordan on the IL. He's the only left-handed batter available, worth considering. Good call. Yep, that should secure his place in that lineup for sure. And we have the lineup, actually. And he's not in it. I still think you're right, and I still think we're on to something, but that lineup is Pena, Altuve, Paredes, Walker, Jainer Diaz, DeZenzo, Jake Myers, Cam Smith, Mauricio Dubon. I like the point, the way you made it, though, Monty. Yeah, Tango, it's, again, it is, I would go if I was going, but I would expect to get rained on. I would expect a delay. The thing I was saying about it at the beginning of the show when it came up is since it's interleague, and since there is a threat of rain over the next couple of days, too, in the New York area, it might be a situation where it's like, even if it's delayed, even if it takes till 1 a.m, if they can get it done, they will get it done, because it's difficult to schedule interleague, or to reschedule interleague, rather. And if they're threatened, they don't want to pile a doubleheader into a day where they might wipe out both games tomorrow or the day after. So there would be that aspect of it. So for me, I'm leaving it in, at least as of now. Hop into the Discord, and I'll let you know later on around 6 o'clock whether or not I'm still leaving it in. But plan is to have it in there right now. Pirates, Cardinals, Miles Michaelis, Carmen Mladzinski. Mladzinski has continually been good at suppressing power. You can see that coming through in the home run model there for the Cards. Sub 5 for everybody in the lineup. Not a really appealing spot for power for the Cardinals, but a 4.52 implied total. If we're chasing sequencing, there's a little bit of meat on the bone there, at least as far as the run total goes in Vegas. Alan S. doesn't like the run projections. Run projections meaningless, seen it not happening over and over. It's an implied total based off of the game total, right? So it's nothing necessarily fully, well, it's difficult to say, right? Because they are overtime accurate because it's comes through via Vegas, right? So it dictates the framework in which these games exist, and it does create the bubble in which the projections are created, right? So it more informs the game environment, which is why I talk about it. And then it tells us, obviously, which one of these teams is favored in Vegas. But a lot of times, like, there's very little difference between a 4.07 implied total and a 4.52 implied total, right? That's not necessarily indicative that the Cards are in a massively better spot than the Pirates. It might indicate that, like, man for man, that lineup is a little bit better. They're facing a little bit lower end and less proven of a pitcher. But yeah, especially when we're talking baseball, this is baseball, man. That is absolutely how it goes. So I get where you're coming from, Alan, but it is the tool that we have to create the framework in which everything here exists. So it's kind of what we got to do. So Mladzinski at 5,000, 6,600. We got 4 innings out of him last time. 2 earned runs on 6 hits. He struck out 4. He walked 1. That was against the Cubbies. A 5-inning game against the Angels before that. 3 earned runs on 5 hits. Struck out 4. Walked 1. Gave up a homer. 2 home runs allowed all year in his 6 starts, but doesn't work deep into games. Hasn't pitched in the 6th inning all season. Has come out before finishing 5 in all but 2 of those starts. So there's not much upside. It's just about, can I get 5 clean innings and maybe a shot at a win for my 5,000 on DraftKings? I don't think he's as functional on FanDuel. I think he's marginally functional on DraftKings. If I'm building 150 over there, probably creeps into a few just because of the Apple box nature of that price can just help you reach other things. But it's really thin. It's more about him suppressing the cards than anything else, than like him creating a lot of upside. They're relatively low strikeout as well. So his propensity to allow bat on ball is going to feed directly into their ability to put bat on ball. It's not a great team. They're very flawed. They lack power upside. They lack a true star and a big, home run bat. But he's not going to tear his way through this Cardinals lineup any way, shape, or form. I do think you can grab some bats on the St. Louis side. I think you can grab some bats on the Pirates side as well and throw them at Miles Mikolas. A lot of similar, excuse me. Still got that tickle in the back of my throat. It never turned into a cold or anything. Like I said, I don't actually get sick, but I've just had a lingering tickle in the back of my throat all week since I came back from Cleveland. So, as I was saying, a lot of what I was just saying about Mlodzinski applies to Mikolas as well in terms of allowing frequent contact. Mikolas pitching to a 4.66 ERA, but a 5.05 xFIP, striking out just 13.4% of hitters, no swinging strikes whatsoever, just gets by. Eats innings and gets by on contact. 32 starts last year. We didn't even see that many innings eaten, honestly. 171 and 2/3 is not a great total. 5.35 ERA, but a 4.08 xFIP was a little bit better under the surface. Pitched to a 16.9% strikeout. Next to the walk rate, that's functional. That's what gets him by, is that he doesn't typically put too many guys on base via the free pass. This year, that number's up in a small sample. It's been problematic. So I definitely think, given bats like O'Neill Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutchen, we can at least take a look at some Pirates. There's enough support with a 4+ total, though that is one of the lower Vegas totals on the board. I forget if the cards is in here. No, it's not. So looking at the confirmed, we're pretty much talking mostly bats here. If you wanted to throw a share or two of Mikolas at 6,200 as an SP2 on DraftKings and just say like, all right, I'm looking for 7 innings of clean ball against a not bad lineup, but a lower end lineup, that would be the path. You're looking essentially for the start that he put up 2 starts back against Atlanta. At Atlanta. 6 hits, but no earned runs, no runs at all. 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. Came away with a quality start, but not a win. That's your upside day for Miles Mikolas. 7 innings, 3 strikeouts, pair of walks, 1 run allowed. Got you a win and a quality start, like that kind of a day. So between the two, I would lean Mikolas, but I really don't want either of them. O'Neill Cruz is excellent. I believe he is maybe not by rate. Maybe it's total barrels. I saw a thing the other day. Either way, whether he's not the actual leader, he is among the leaders in barrels in all of baseball. 24% rate, 62.7% hard hits, 8 home runs, has stolen 14 bases, a 426 xWOBA, a 261 ISO. Dude's a superstar. 5,900, 3,800, absolute priority in Pirate stacks. A very good one-off. If you're just building and you've got a spare $3,800, $5,900, I like him better as a one-off at shortstop on FanDuel for 38 than in the outfield, but he's a major star and there's tons and tons of upside against a pitcher who's going to allow him to make contact with the ball 3 times today. Brian Reynolds at just 39.29. Love the upside for him. 4 home runs on the season, 3 stolen bases. Underperforming in the slash line, but the xWOBA tells us things are going to correct. So do the barrels and the hard hits. Everything else is in line. Strikeouts are somewhat up. That's where some of the qualities disappeared too. But this is going to normalize in an awful hurry. Brian Reynolds is too good to be that cheap. Andrew McCutchen for 44.28, especially when I can use Reynolds to average down the price of Andrew McCutchen, which really ought to be the other way around. 13.3% barrels, 45% hard hits. Still out there doing Andrew McCutchen things, which includes getting on base at a 358 clip, creating runs 19% better than average. Very, very playable veteran. Very cheap on FanDuel. Joey Bart at 3,700, 26 on FanDuel. You can play him on the blue site like he's their first baseman. Doesn't really matter. I wouldn't mind having Emmanuel Valdez in that role as well at 2,400, given his propensity for putting the bat on ball pretty effectively. Hasn't seen great results for it yet this season, but can make good contact for a very cheap price. So either one of these guys in my catcher, first base, or util spot is fine. What I probably don't want is a ton of lineups that have both of these guys and only two of those guys. Less of an issue on DraftKings where you're going 5. Bart's barreled the ball 10.5% of the time, slashing 282, 408, 388 in an encouraging 103 plate appearances. Showed some of this upside last year. Interesting hitter in the cleanup role for this team. Ke'Bryan Hayes, a couple spots after those guys for just 35. You can at least buy frequency of bat on ball. The quality comes and goes, but he should at least deliver some good batted ball events. You just don't get a ton of power upside. But you can get a good average day. You can get a 3-hit day. You can get a few ribbies, and some good sequencing out of Ke'Bryan Hayes. And it's not a bad price. Adam Frazier, Tommy Pham, Jared Triolo going down the list here. Mix and match pieces in their current form. Nobody's been playing that well over their small samples so far this year. We do know there's more talent in all three of these players than they're showing so far. Tommy Pham is probably, in my opinion, the lowest end, given the diminishment that we saw last year. Triolo and Frazier just less than consistent. Between the three, probably Frazier is your best option. On the Cardinal side, the team with the better run total here. 5 home runs on the board, 4 stolen bases so far for Lars Nootbaar, who's also getting on at a 373 clip, matching ex-Woba number. 124 WRC plus, putting up good premium contact, doesn't really strike out, drawing a ton of walks. Nootbaar's a good player. Very interesting option from the left side. 47, not a bad price. 33, fair. Alec Burleson at just 28-24 across sites. It's been pretty mediocre so far this year. 256 xWOB and a 75 WRC plus. Really poor results so far. Last year he hit 21 home runs. He created runs 6% better than average. Not a great ISO at 152 given the home run total. That means most of his power was just resulting in some home runs and some happenstance. Not a lot of doubles filling in around the edges. Not a lot of extra base hits filling in around the edges. But he does have talent. He does keep strikeouts low. 15% this year, 12.8 last year. Medium walk rates. He's a playable piece against a pitcher like this. If we're looking for sequencing, if we're looking for just, base hits, opportunities, I think he's in play at those prices. I don't love him at first base. He's just another outfielder. I don't love taking 2 outfielders right off the top, but we'll do it. Donovan slots in at second on either site, 45-32. He's slashing 339, 397, 480. Productive start to his season. He's put good bat on ball. We've seen solid stretches like this from Donovan. He's always a productive player, but he'll have a stretch of 100 and change plate appearances every year where he's a player like this, and then things kind of regress around the edges. If you catch it right, it's definitely an upside play. 45-32, we're at like the upper thresholds of where I would consider him appropriately priced. Any higher than this, so we'd be talking about him being a little bit too high priced, but playable in this range. And when you can average it down in stacks, it just doesn't matter. Nolan Arenado is just 42, 3,000. He's playable. 254, 341, 402. At least he still gets on base, helps create runs a little bit. 106 WRC plus. The power's gone. It's never coming back. We've got 3 home runs on the board, a 148 ISO. A lot of bad in with the good, but at least he doesn't strike out. Still draws his walks. 8% strikeouts, 10.9% walk. Keeps him playable, but not really an ideal way to fill third base anymore. So there's that concern. Same thing with William Contreras. I've talked about it a bunch. He's less valuable at first base than he is at a catcher, but at least the price is way down. Between the two, if I had to take one third baseman or the first baseman, I'd probably just ride the discount. Take the cheaper option at first base. Take the guy who's delivering barrels and hard hits so far this year. The results haven't been all that much better than Arenado, but at least the 346 xWOBA kind of stands out. 4 home runs is 1 more than Arenado's hit, and we've got better contact. So between the two, I'll take Contreras. It's essentially tied on FanDuel at the same price. Nolan Gorman at 34-28 at second base. 1 home run, but stuck at 167, 274, 300 otherwise. That's illustrative of his problems. He's not even striking out like he does when things are going bad. 37.6% last year. That's actually down at 28.8. He's made good contact in the few batted ball events that he's got, but a lot of really poor results. Maybe some atom balls in there, maybe some misfortune in there, but a flawed hitter at best. What we're looking for with Nolan Gorman is the home run upside that he typically brings, but against a pitcher who's got a little bit of track keeping the ball on the ground and in the yard, it's difficult to envision. Pedro Paz has Victor Scott, Jose Barrero at the bottom of the lineup. Victor Scott's probably your most interesting guy. We're up to 11 steals. He's getting on at a 356 clip, which is encouraging, slashing 286, 356, 419, creating runs 19% better than average. The 290 xWOBA stands out, but he's a bat control guy. We're looking for some base hits, some correlated scoring, and some stolen base bonuses. But from down here in a mediocre lineup, it does become a little bit more challenging. But again, if we're going to this team today for sequencing, the way I would use them is just wrap them around, right? We grab them at 42. I'll probably fill my whole outfield here, right? We go 42, 47, 28, all three in the outfield. And then Donovan at second and Contreras at first. And I'm at 3,900 a man, 3,920. It's not a bad stack going up against Carmen Mlodzinski. If this team comes through, that is a good 5-man group of likely contributors for a fair price, under 4,000 a man. So that's the approach I would take. You can absolutely put Arenado into that and not really increase your price that much. You could easily, instead of going Donovan, you take a higher end second baseman, take a $300 discount and go to Arenado, and now you're 3,860 a man. And that's just as functional a way to build that. Barrero at the dead min, shortstop eligible on FanDuel. I think we looked him up the other day and there wasn't much to see. Right? Am I remembering that correctly? Hit tool. That's right. We've got 170 and change plate appearances over each of the last 2 years. Yeah, he's not good. I keep forgetting that. Or not last year, 2 years ago and 3 years ago. Right? This is who he is. Pretty mediocre. So even at the dead min, that's kind of a weak spot at the bottom of the Cards lineup. But I think that little 5-man, whichever version of it you like, is at worst pretty playable here. This goes Cards bats followed by Pirates bats followed by, if you need it for some unholy reason, $6,200 Miles Michaelis on DraftKings, but I don't like it at all. And that ends your FanDuel slate. DraftKings, you got 2 games to go. Mets and the D-backs, really interesting one here. Ryan Nelson, probably not getting more than like 6,700, probably not correctly priced for going up against this really good Mets lineup. You can see the Vegas total at 4.70. Nelson is not bad, though. That stuff plus number stands out a little bit in his relief work so far this year. No starts, but 17 innings, couple bulk relief appearances. 5.82 ERA, just ignore it. He's got a 2.52 xFIP. Last year, he pitched to a 4.24 ERA with a sub 4 xFIP, struck out 20% against the 5.4% walk rate. Stuff plus was just under the league average, but he's brought it up over the course of this year so far. It was up in spring training with some advancement on a couple of his pitches. He had a really good stretch down the stretch last season. Really good run down the stretch last season. So he's a pitcher that in probably his next start, assuming he's in the rotation, we might talk about. We might be interested. I don't think we're going here against the Mets showing a pretty healthy total. But a talented guy. Griff Canning, 72.91. That is, forget the 91. That's your FanDuel 2-game late slate if you want him. He's there. 72 on DraftKings. He's in the mix for a few shares at worst. I don't like the spot at all. I think this is a terrible lineup to throw him against. They're pulling a 4.91 implied total as the second highest overall team in Vegas tonight. So it seems very easy to avoid outside of that really cheap price at 72. And the fact that Canning actually has been all right this season. 2.61 ERA is betrayed somewhat by a 3.58 xFIP, but that's still a pretty decent number. He's inducing a 12.1% swinging with a 29.6% CSW, finishing off nearly 24% of hitters. The walk's obviously way too high, so is the whip. The premium contact has been manageable this year. That's been a problem for him in years past. So far, we've shaved that average launch down pretty significantly. It's had an impact on barrel rate. We care less about the hard hits, the exit velo, if they're on a lower trajectory, and it's resulted in, so far, small sample, a lower home run rate. Stuff plus is marginally up, but still well below the average. There are some positive signs for Griff Canning. It's another spot where it's like, yeah, if he was facing hell, I don't know, out west, even the A's, let's say tonight. It'd be interesting. I would definitely hedge with A's bats on the other side, and I would do that with the D-backs for every share of Canning I take here. I would probably grab 2 Diamondback stacks. It's probably not the right day to chase him, but there are going to be some right days in there at that 72 price. The FanDuel 2-game slate, you got to just kind of bite the bullet on one of these guys. So he's in play, but that is not a good price. Ryan Nelson on that FanDuel slate is more interesting at 75, I think. And you just say, all right, screw the quality start. We're probably not getting it with only 4 options anyway. Let me take a cheap Ryan Nelson and chase some strikeout upside. The Mets don't really strike out, though. 17.8% rate so far for this projected version of the lineup. Let's see if we got the confirmed. We do not, but we do have the Diamondbacks. So Francisco Lindor in the leadoff at 53.37 is an excellent purchase at shortstop in stacks as a one-off. However you want to roster Lindor, you just do it. 364 xWOBA, 31% better than average, marked by WRC+. Barrels are slightly down, but they're going to come back. Hard hits are slightly down. They're going to come back as well. As long as he continues putting quality bat on ball with a high level of frequency and a high level of competence, we're going to be fine. 6 home runs on the board, slashing 290, 357, 457, with good indicators that that'll go up. Juan Soto at 10.3% barrels and 55.1% hard hits. Those are, for anybody else, very good numbers. For him, somewhat pedestrian. Barrels are way down. Hard hits are only down a little bit, but barrels way, way down for him. He's at 256, 374, 434. Again, if I told you those were Rhys Hoskins numbers, you'd be like, oh, wow, Rhys Hoskins having a nice little start to his year. For Juan Soto, everybody's in panic mode because he's making $1 billion. 412 xWOBA tells you everything's going to be just fine. So does the entire history with this hitter. 11.49 in the home run model is super appealing today. 11.68 for Pete Alonso in the next spot is super appealing today. 9+ for Lindor. A couple spots later, Mark Vientos at a 9+. Definitely some power on the board for the Mets. Alonso at 344, 468, 656. It's getting extended. It's getting interesting. Very real for Pete Alonso. He's always been excellent for power. He's showing us more than he ever has right now. Whether it continues or not, can't quite say yet. But, I mean, the 475 xWOBA tells us it will. He's been ridiculous so far this year. 57.43 and well worth it. Brendan Nimmo helped you average the pricing down. He's still providing power. A 205 ISO, 353 xWOBA, premium contact galore at 12.4% barrels, 59% hard hits. Definitely excellent upside for the money. It's just the slash line has diminished over the last couple seasons. 220, 273, 425, particularly on base. Really notably low. But 7 home runs and a lot of good underlying indicators. Mark Vientos for just 36. We're back into the Mark Vientos is always cheap discussion. 4 home runs on the board. 306 xWOBA, not a ton of support for upside. 160 ISO is not great as far as the results go. But we saw such an extended stretch of excellence from this hitter in terms of being a good power bat last year that I'll just take the discount and run with it. I don't know if you can hear that. Somebody's honking outside. Can we as a society agree that, like, especially with radar in the cars and everything these days, I could sign up for some sort of radar activated sensory, I'm going to honk the horn as an alert mechanism kind of thing. But I think, can we agree that the first thing we should take control of away from humanity is car horns? Let the robots have the car horns. We are obviously not equipped to handle that responsibility. So annoying. Like you're sitting in traffic, and this is just a regular city street outside. And you can see for a mile down in front of you, there's a line of cars and there's a stoplight. And you're going to sit there and honk your horn? Come on. We're living in a society, as George Costanza would say. Monty Pritchett sounded like chimes and bells. Hell's bells. Trevor Hoffman must be visiting New Jersey. Good call. Just drives me nuts. For one, I got the window in the other room open, but also just living at essentially street level. You hear everything. Going down the Mets lineup a little further, Jeff McNeil, we're entirely reliant on batting average and balls in play. The slap hitter of slap hitters. I've never been a big fan, but you can get productive days out of him. He's also carrying a 192 ISO. He's seen some decent results so far this year. His creator runs 12% above average in his 30 plate appearances, and we're very happy for him. Francisco Alvarez is a much more interesting hitter because he's got true actual individual upside based on his power. 32 plate appearances so far. He's already got a home run on the board. We've seen extended stretches of excellent performance followed by massive canyons of underperformance from this hitter. But you catch him on the right day, major upside. 47.4% hard hits in the tiny, tiny sample. Luis Angel, really interesting. 298, 355, 369 so far. He's stolen 8 bases, 109 WRC plus. Just putting good bat on ball. 19.4% strikeouts, 8.6% walks. He's getting by. The 299 xwOBA is indicative that this will probably come to a screeching halt. He's more like a 250, 260 type hitter without power, but we'll see. Last year, he barreled 10% of the batted ball events, 46.7% hard hits, so maybe there's a little bit of trade-off there. Tyrone Taylor with 1 home run on the board over 96 plate appearances. He is very much in that Michael A. Taylor vein, not because they have the same last name, but because they are guys who can deliver completely unowned, very, very cheap power from the bottom of a lineup. He's not a star. He doesn't have obvious power. 5.11 in the home run model. He's barely halfway to the magic number, but that is notably higher than some of the other guys in this lineup, and nobody goes to guys like this. There's a reason we talk about them on this show, 2,800, 2,400 from the bottom of the lineup. You can get there against Ryan Nelson and whatever comes out of the bullpen. Diamondbacks, confirmed version of the lineup. Ketel Marte back. 40 very good plate appearances so far. We know that this is a star caliber second baseman. At 3,200, FanDuel apparently forgot that. 5,500 on DraftKings is much more correct. I don't really know why FanDuel's at 3,200. That's that 2-game slate. Take advantage of that price. I got to remember to try and focus more on this side of the board. So Corbin Carroll at 61, totally justified. 281, 344, 575, 9 homers on the board. Monster start to his year. Alleviate any concerns that came from the beginning of last season. This is just, I think we just continue to see this going forward. Monster premium contact numbers. Marte hasn't barreled that many in his tiny sample of plate appearances and batted ball events so far this year, but 12.3% barrels last year in a monster season. You know that he's just going to be good. Pavin Smith has given us tons of barrels in his 100 plate appearances now. 100 plate appearances deep. We're at 313, 450, 575 with Pavin Smith, a 263 ISO, 4 home runs on the board, a lot of extra base hits. Dude's just good, and he's doing a lot of the things that he just did in the minors. We've kind of been waiting for this to actually arrive with the mix of both opportunity, because he was positionally blocked forever, opportunity, and actually delivering on the talent when he gets the opportunity, and we're kind of there. Josh Naylor at 49-31, another great option at first base from this team, and you got Pavin Smith at least on that FanDuel slate with outfield eligibility. Not so much on DraftKings. That sucks. The positional conflict there is rough. 304, 380, 472 for Naylor so far. 4 homers, 6 steals. He's been excellent. Eugenio Suarez, monster power bat. 10 home runs. Just ignore that he's sub Mendoza, sub 300 on base. I don't really care. 287 ISO at 354 xwOBA. 16.5% barrels and 57.6% hard hits. One of the better home run bats in baseball for just 4,600, 3,200. Can always be in my lineups, especially against a homer-prone pitcher who has somewhat not been so far this year. Gabriel Moreno at 28-23 across sites, 33-27 for Lourdes Gurriel, Alec Thomas, and Geraldo Perdomo at very cheap prices. You can see the production from some of these guys. You know, Lourdes Gurriel has been a little bit disappointing, but has at least delivered 5 home runs, a respectable enough xwOBA number. There is upside there. Alec Thomas has been flat out good. 302, 344, 419. We've seen little stretches like this from him. Decent enough lefty bat for cheap in the outfield. 341 xwOBA. And then Perdomo, while Ketel Marte was out, was excellent. 292, 400, 475. All his positive attributes on display, plus some unexpected power upside with 5 home runs in that stretch. Just a 5.5% barrel, 30.9% hard hit rate, but came away with some good results. Has always been very, very good at getting on base. At worst, in an ongoing sense, if he just lingers at the bottom of the lineup the rest of the year, Geraldo Perdomo already was a good wraparound option. Last year from down here, 344 on base. The year before, 353 in extended plate appearance samples. Didn't deliver a ton of power or counting stats or anything really, but was on base like crazy. It's a very plus attribute for him. And if you're talking about him at short for 43, it's not a bad purchase when you're wrapping him back around to here. Obviously, we can't get both first basemen. Let's say we went 43 at short, 61 in the outfield, 55 at second. I'll decide between the first baseman in a minute, but we'll take Suarez for 46. Now I'm at 51. It's expensive, so we'll probably just average down with Pavin Smith as much as we can. That gets us below 5,000. It's 49.80, so exactly 5,000 a man for a 5-man there. It's not bad to throw at Griff Canning when the Diamondbacks check in with a 4.91 implied total. There's a lot of functionality with having Perdomo at the bottom of the lineup now. Diamondbacks bats, followed by Mets bats, followed by probably Griff Canning if you have to take a pitcher from this game, and we're talking DraftKings only, just because I don't know what the depth is going to look like for Nelson. Last game up. Hit that like button one last time if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Coming up on 5:30, we'll be out of here shortly. We'll get the projections updated on the site, get all the Vegas totals open. Updated, I mean. I saw Nitram 99 saying roof is open at Chase, which is helpful for offense. Mariners at a 4.33 implied total. The Athletics at a 4.26. Could get a little late night hammery here. But you've got competent pitching on the mound on one side, and you've got a really good pitcher who's been underperforming badly on the other side. Bryce Miller at a 14.7% walk rate and a 1.43 whip over 30 2/3 in 6 starts so far this year. Last year, he had a 6.4% walk rate, 0.98 whip over 180 1/3 in 31 starts. Year before, a 4.8% walk rate and 25 starts, 131 1/3. I'm a much bigger believer in that 5.6% walk rate that he put up over 300 or so innings. This is weirdly out of character. 10.1% swinging is slightly down. The CSW is not throwing as many strikes overall as he has in those 2 years. So, I mean, that's an obvious explanation for why walks would be up a little bit. If you're not getting guys when you're nibbling and fishing out of the zone to swing, then yeah, you can see the walk spike. Still doesn't explain the full spike, though. 24% K is right in line with what we want. Stuff Plus looks fine, 102. Last year it was 112. That is down. So that's probably where a little bit of other results-based stuff has gone. You can also see a little concern there. 4.44 xFIP under that 3.52 ERA. Last year that was also high. 2.94 ERA, but a 3.85 xFIP. So something to watch there. If we just get a weird regression in a negative sense for Bryce Miller, could be ugly for those of us who drafted him in fantasy. He's managed home runs pretty effectively, 0.78% home run rate, despite some premium contact on a fly ball trajectory so far. Has managed to miss barrels. If he starts getting burnt here, that gets worse in a hurry, given that walk rate and the extra guys on base so far. That's kind of what the xFIP is trying to tell you. But I still have plenty of faith. There are strikeouts available in this lineup. This top end, 4 out of those first 5 hitters average a 23.3% strikeout rate so far this year, and it's where most of their power is in Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, and that's also Shea Langoliers there at 15.4. Last year he was 27.2. The year before 29.2. So this is a little illusory. This is right in line. So like that group of hitters last year, 24.9% for the full top 5. Definitely K's here, if nothing else. Limited as far as the walks go. They can all draw a walk, but there's only one guy in double digits, and so far that's J.J. Bleday. Same thing over the last couple of seasons. So that should benefit Miller and should help him shave the walks down in this one. But it's been a little bit uncomfortable. 81.83, you at least get a great price discounted for the struggles. Absolutely would play. Definitely think he should be a highly considered and highly rostered option on DraftKings at 81. On FanDuel in that short slate at 83, he's the best of the 4 choices. No bones about it. Best of the 4 pitchers. Sevy at 79 on DraftKings, playable. 3.30 ERA, but a 3.99 xFIP underneath it, not really inducing any swinging strikes, not throwing enough strikes, but still rates out pretty strongly by Stuff Plus. Tells us there should be a little bit more dynamic nature to his pitches. He should be able to find a way to miss some more bats, but he's going to be right around average. He's going to have his bad days. He'll have a few good days, have a few days where this premium contact burns him on that fly ball trajectory more than it has so far. Against a free swinging Mariners club that, let's face it, that's not a real number. Top 5 group of hitters for them from last year, 25% strikeout rate. Same group so far this year is at a 20.9. We'll see where that goes. Jorge Polanco, I don't think, maintains 12.6 given his numbers over history. Julio, I believe that. If you told me Julio went from 24.5 to 25.4 and then down to 21.9, I wouldn't question that. But Cal Raleigh, we know, is going to be in the 26 to 28 range. That's believable. Rowdy is going to be in that same territory. So there are definitely Ks here. But this team has been better than maybe advertised in terms of the offensive production since like the end of last year, like August of last year. There's power here for sure. Jorge Polanco's been going great at 380, 419, 785. That's absurd. Over 87 plate appearances. None of that's real. None of it's going to stay in place, especially not those strikeouts. But the power has always been there. Jorge Polanco's a good player over time. Last year, he had 16 and 469 opportunities, had a weak year. Year before that, another weak year in 343. Missed some time in there with 14 homers, but had a 118 WRC plus and just under a 200 ISO. Year before that, 119 WRC plus, hit 16 home runs. There's a better season back in there somewhere. At worst, he's playable. I definitely think he could be vulnerable to the strikeout if Sevy's going right. But he's an option at 44-34. JP Crawford's having a good start to his season. 3 home runs, a 405 on base, 362 xWOBA, 286, 405, 400. Nice return to form so far for Crawford. I highlighted this the other day. It was last year he cratered in terms of his quality, 202, 304 on the front side of that slash line. The year before, 266, 380. Looks a whole lot more like the guy we've seen so far this year. Julio is a cheap star at 4,900, 3,400. We get these rough starts. This just seems like it's going to be who he is. But we know what this talent looks like. He's hit 5 home runs. He's stolen 5 bags. He's putting good wood on ball. 21.9% Ks and 10.6% walks. Improvement in both of those categories. So there's some good in with the 212, 311, 386 start. Creating runs 6% better than average, supported by the 358 xWOBA there. Cal Raleigh's a monster power bat. Everybody knows that. 11.04 in today's home run model. He's got 12 on the season. 396 xWOBA, 22.7% barrel rate, 47.7% hard hits. Just one of the better power bats in the league. Rowdy at 24 is a mix and match option from the left side. 4 home runs, moderate production, but a nice 348 xWOBA sitting there, telling us that we can get a little bit more out of Rowdy if things go well, break his way. 209 ISO. At worst, we know there's power. Miles Mastroboni, Ben Williamson, Rylan Thomas, and Leo Rivas rounding things out. Rivas, fairly effective, 46 plate appearances so far. Created runs 81% better than average over that stretch with an xWOBA that tells us there's a little bit lurking under the surface. 378, 500, 405 is not going to continue. But for a cheap price at second base, a mixer at worst. Williamson has been pretty mediocre over those 65 plate appearances. We'll see what that turns into. So 4 mix and match guys if it's this version of the lineup that we get. Still no confirmation on the A's side either. That top end is going to be pretty intact though. Lawrence Butler, 47-33 for the talent. Not a bad price, but it's a very good pitcher on the mound. 5 homers, 6 steals, power, speed, run creation. Very good option for premium contact. Probably not priced high enough. Brent Rooker at 52-35 could easily be priced a little bit higher. 11.17 in the home run model. He's hit 9 so far this year. 387 xWOBA. Just continuing to do Brent Rooker things out there. Tyler Soderstrom, I mentioned, has kind of started to scuffle a little bit. The numbers don't fully show it yet. 282, 345, 527. But it's been a struggle over the last couple of weeks. Hasn't homered since April 17th. 9 on the season, though. Still carrying a 395 xWOBA. Still a 15.8% barrel. Bad day for Bryce Miller. Tyler Soderstrom's driving the ball very effectively. So absolutely a priority still in A's stacks if you're going there. But at a 426 implied total, there are better options on the board today. Langoliers for 42, 3,000, 8.89 in the home run model. Pure right-handed power bat. Strikeouts are way down right now. That's not going to continue, but the premium contact is going to continue. 6 homers at 336 xWOBA, 196 ISO. Power numbers could go up, and he's cheap at 42, 3,000 on FanDuel. You can play him at first base if you want to. You could probably have a nice little rotation of these two if you're building a lot of A's stacks on that short FanDuel slate. Right here, that's a lot of playability, cross positions. Soderstrom just an outfielder now, actually, on DraftKings. That's because they want Kurtz at first base. JJ Bleday has been effective, 41% hard hits so far on the season. He's carrying a just 225, 324, 383 slash line, but his creator runs 5% better than average. He's hit 4 home runs. He's a playable lefty bat. There's enough there. Jacob Wilson has an excellent hit tool. He's at 333, 358, 450. Creator runs 32% better than average. It's just that he doesn't give you much more than frequent bat on ball, so you need help from his friends here. You have Luis Urias behind him. He's got 5 home runs on the season. Moderately playable. Can definitely hit the ball hard. We've looked back in time at him, 16 home runs 3 years ago. Kurtz is disappointing over 40 plate appearances. He's at 278, 300, 333. That's fine, but the 232 xWOBA, the .056 ISO, the fact that he's yet to barrel a ball at the major league level, all of that is shocking. 45% strikeout rate is way too high. The kid's got undeniable power in that bat. He's got undeniable quality, and now you're just getting him kind of cheap because the immediate call-up prospect shine has kind of gone away. So it's a really interesting bat if he's hitting down lineup. If he moves up in the lineup, it just helps his power and plate appearance upside. Still very interested in Kurtz shares if I'm going A's. And then Gio Urshela, not much of a hitter to round things out, 25, 24. If you're building 150 A's stacks, he can be in a few of them, but he is your by far lowest priority in that lineup. Bounce back over for one last look at the broken up pitching board. Tobias Myers is highlighted in yellow because those numbers are going to come down. I didn't cut his innings enough. These guys are in red because they're not available on the FanDuel slate. The missing prices are not available on the DraftKings slate. Those are the early games. Those are the late games. But out of the guys that are on both sites, all 3 of those guys are reasonably good options. One of them is an excellent option. Cole Ragan's just offset at the top of the board on his own today. You can see that immediately in the projection gap. Carlos Rodon, very threatened by that Padres lineup at a high price in Yankee Stadium in a game that also has weather. Doesn't look like it's raining yet, but weather threat there too. Matthew Boyd, not as good as he seems. Like that Giants lineup and some of those righty bats against, but very playable for the projection, for the opportunity for some Ks in that Giants lineup at those prices. Miller is a yes for me on either site, short FanDuel slate, full DraftKings slate. I have faith. Pivetta, very high priced, but between the 2 pitchers in that Yankee game, probably the better option. Even at 10-5, 10,000, even at a lower projection going up against the better of the 2 teams. Smith-Shawver, just a great price to find a pitcher like that against a lineup like the Reds. Really like that option. Could see some downside. Still a young pitcher finding his way, but that is a really appealing SP2 at 75 on DraftKings. Like him a lot better than I like Landon Roop here. Really don't love tangling with that Cubs lineup for sequencing. Feeds right into what they do well. Singer, very high danger spot. Could come through with a nice number of Ks. If he manages to tap dance his way through for runs and power, then he'll get there. 94 is very expensive on FanDuel. 88 is a little bit more affordable. I kind of like the upside for the Braves bats going against them. At some point, it's going to go pop. Ronald Blanco, I want to attack with bats, but I do think is playable at price. I just don't expect much. Canning at DraftKings pricing at 72 is playable, but not very good. And that Diamondbacks lineup is the much more appealing piece of that equation with the second highest run total in Vegas. Sevy, playable, but not all that appealing. And then we get into a lot of meh. The guy who's interesting down here is Ben Kasparius on FanDuel at 6,000. Even if he doesn't go 6, which he won't, there's almost no way he goes 6. But if we get 5, I think we got a really good shot at paying off that $6,000 price. And quality start be damned. It pays for a lot on that FanDuel slate with his strikeout upside and his quality against that Marlins team. Wouldn't expect more than 4. You get 5, consider it a bonus and a shot at the win. But he's playable here. This is a no. This is a no outside of maybe a couple darts at 5K just for the price boost on DraftKings. But you're looking, as we discussed, at like 5 innings of 3 strikeout baseball and probably a couple runs. It's not good. This is more interesting, but a terrible matchup, and I don't think you get more than 5 innings, but a better pitcher there. Sandy on FanDuel, no thank you. Miles Michaelis at 62. The same thing kind of applies as Mlodzinski, except at a higher price and probably even lower strikeout numbers, but maybe a more proven arm, a more stretched out veteran that you could go to for maybe you get 7 clean innings and 3 strikeouts there. And then Shane Smith is difficult to see succeeding against all of this against a high quality, low strikeout Royals lineup. There's your home run board one last time. Mr. Judge pushing a 20 up toward the top. A lot of guys above a 10. It's not a bad stretch of power. This is broken up, though, across sites. Not all these guys are on both slates. Only a couple of them are on both, in fact. I went down to, the hell is he? Christian Walker, all the way down there for my home run pick of the day. Just because. It's a good get-right spot for Mr. Walker. I like the upside. With that in mind, guys, 5:40. Let me punch out of here. Get the site updated with some confirmed lineups. Yes, Monty, I saw that. It's a challenging name in that regard. I've been trying to either use the last name on its own or be sure that there's a little bit of a pause there. Because people don't know what you're saying. They walk into the room or into the broadcast at the wrong time. That obviously could mushmouth that name pretty badly. Plus 2,000 A's to win the West. I agree. The pitching depth would be your challenge there. As with that minor league ballpark that they're going to be playing in as the summer warms up. But we'll see what that ballpark ends up playing like. Still curious. But yeah, it's a good price. Let's put it that way. That's not a crazy bet. Question would be like if they're contenders, do they still sell pieces? I doubt they buy anything. I doubt they try and like shore up the rotation. But what would be interesting is if they're in contention, would they sell pieces? It's not a crazy price, though. That's a reasonable bet. Anyway, guys, you absolutely rock out there. 2.5 hours into this show. Felt like it was going quick, but I guess it went long, whatever. 10 games to cover, 8 on each site. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share a result when you do. Come on back tomorrow for more of this. It's been fun, gang. See you tomorrow.